Hello and welcome to round 4 of the Virtual Carrera Cup 2014.
GamePod, the ultimate race rig for those serious about sim racing, puts you in the driver's seat with all the controls at your fingertips. Be number one on the road, in the race, in the game. GamePod, the choice of champions.
InsideSimRacing.tv, the fastest show on the internet. Sim racing news and reviews since 2007, with new shows every week.
We are live here for round 4 of the Virtual Carrera Cup 2014, and we are bringing you this live from Norisring. My name is John Munro, and alongside me, as always, is Danny Asbury. Now, Danny, we're here at Norisring. We've had 3 fantastic rounds so far this season. It's a brand new championship, loads of excitement. What are we expecting here today?
Yeah, it's been a long break since round 3 at Road Atlanta. I mean, that was, of course, the TPS Christmas break, the TPS holiday break, the winter break, whatever you want to call it. I mean, we're back here, like you said, John, at Norisring. And I think what we can expect is the championship is thickening up now, because what you saw in that first half of the season was drivers trying to understand their place and how it all kind of laid out. I mean, Chris Butcher, he led the championship. We saw Diego Silva lead the championship at points. Now Tim Heineman is leading the way. Now you're going to see Silva and Butcher are both in range to go after Heineman. Yes, they have a lot of work cut out for him, but I think now the fight will be on for the final rounds of this championship, the second half of the season, as it were. And John, I'm really looking forward to see how this all shapes out.
Yeah, and as Danny said, that is, of course, this is the return of the Virtual Carrera Cup from the winter break. We saw a 4-week gap as opposed to the usual 2 weeks. So let's just show you the standings we have going into this round after the break. If we can just bring that up for you just now. And as Danny said, in first place is Tim Heineman on 242 points. Behind him is his Spade Racing teammate Marius Gollenbeck on 222. So only 20 points in it, although Heineman has looked dominant in the past few rounds. Chris Butcher is in third on 220 points, ahead of early championship leader Diogo Silva in fourth. Jesper Tolberg is in fifth, with Boyd Bryson in a sixth, which might come as a surprise, as he's just been consistent. He hasn't been pumping in the podiums, but he's been consistent, and it's paying off. Kenneth Yerman is seventh for THR, with Chris Hack in eighth, but we have a bit of a story about him for this round. Thomas Erzin, who we also have a story for this round, is in ninth, with Florian Voita on his TPS debut in 10th position in the standings. And just before we take you into the proper action here, we are going to have a quick look at the upcoming events in the TouringProSeries. So, of course, this is the Virtual Carrera Cup at Norisring, and the next round of that will be in 2 weeks' time, coming to you live from Thruxton. But before the next round of this, obviously, we have the Virtual Mini Challenge coming up for you next Tuesday, live from Taruma. So you can join us here at 10 GMT, I should say, for that one. Then the event after that will be the Virtual Supertech Series live from Brasilia, and the coverage of that will start just before 6 p.m. and that is a week today. So tune in at basically this time in a week for that one. And then the Wednesday after that will be the Virtual Touring Masters heading to Oschersleben, not Oschersleben, the Österreichring, there we go, which is an absolutely stunning looking track and brilliant to drive in those cars. So join us a week on Wednesday for that one. But that is then, and this is now. This is the Virtual Carrera Cup live from Norisring. A very tight and twisty track, very short, but at the same time very technical and difficult to get right, Danny.
Yeah, driving this track, there are pretty much, and you point this out, before we went live here, John, is that it's pretty much only just 3 corners on this track. As a driver, that's kind of the mentality you have. And what happens when you have a track so short with so little kind of going on in terms of corners, it just jumbles up the field. It makes this a complete lottery. I mean, there was a lot of drivers talking to me midweek saying that, Dan, expect a surprise in qualifying, because it's just not going to be as etched out as it's been over the course of the season, because obviously you only got really 3 turns to work with. You either are magic through those 3 turns and are able to get a top 5, a top 10 time, or you just don't come up with it and you can completely slide down through the field. So it's going to be, I think, the most interesting quali session we've seen by far through the course of the championship. So we're getting the quali right about now. The cars are just about to make their way out on track. So it's going to be kind of hard to predict what exactly is going on here, John. I know a lot of people. I mean, it's kind of hard to go against Tim Heineman. He's been the fastest driver through the week of testing, and it's obviously, you know, coming off the back of, what is it, 3-4 straight wins. So it's going to be really hard to top Heineman. But I think if anyone's going to do it, it's going to happen here today at Norisring.
Yes, so Heineman was the quickest in practice, so we will actually just jump into the game for you now. And there is Tim Heineman in his Spade Racing car, as we just get the sounds on. But yeah, he has been the star of the season, as to be said. You know, putting himself up there, he clearly wants to be a TPS great alongside the likes of Keithley and Tallberg. And the reason I'm saying that is because not often do we see in such a highly competitive series one driver so dominant, and the only time we've seen that in the previous, the history of Touring Pro Series, you'd have to say it's Keithley and Tallberg are the only really guys who have been able to turn that pace into success, and Heineman wants to be the next one of them.
Well, that's always hard to say at this point, because what makes Keithley and Tallberg the legends of TPS is that they did it for so long across so many different championships. Obviously, this is the first time we've seen Tim Heineman in TPS. I mean, we don't know how he's going to continue the transition within this series. Is he going to move over to different umbrellas of TPS? So far, this is the only instance of Heineman we've seen here in these flat 6 cars in the VCC. So it's still early to tell on Heineman, but so far, John, he's been just as dominant as either Tallberg or Keithley have been in their, you know, top respective series. So it's certainly a great start for the Spade Racing driver.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to agree with you there. He's not been able to show it in different series at the moment, and I have heard that he is a bit of a Porsche specialist. So, I mean, he's yet to show it in other series, but at the moment he's showing the initial signs and initial qualities of a driver of that caliber, just by the sheer dominance he's shown so far this season and the lack of mistakes we've seen from him. But that's the first laps coming in qualifying now, and Tim Heineman has gone quickest on a 50.748 ahead of Chris Butcher. If we take a look at it now, we should probably go on an onboard lap with Chris and see where he's in track. So I think that's starting to slide now, I believe. Or is he heading? No, he's heading into the chicane. So this is turn 2 and 3 chicane. We've got a good exit out of this left-hander. Just step them on way onto the pavement. Get the power down nice and early. Of course, for a track as short as this, as Danny was saying earlier, it's all about relatively a slower driver has got a better chance of making up time because there's so few corners. If you get one clean lap in and a better driver gets a bad lap, you're going to be quicker.
Yeah, and you know, the thing about THR, we're running with, of course, Chris Butcher, the #1 driver, so as he's building from the strategy, you can come up with any beat, time and time, you know, he solidifies the second place with a 50.9. Now, just so our viewers know, the fastest time we've seen for the week of testing is about a 50.2. That was done by Heineman, but so I expect these times to drop off as we get through the session. But the interesting bit is teammate Toby Davis, we have yet to see here on the server. Now, our producer was telling us before the live day down that Toby Davis usually only shows his face, you know, the day of the race when he's like really quick. Okay, so if you don't see Toby Davis on live races, you don't know his pace, it's usually a sign that he's fast. And I was questioning whether or not we were going to see Davis today, and so far, John, we haven't even seen him here in the even warm up, and now here we're going in quali, so we're not really sure what's going on with THR. Obviously, Chris Butcher would be their only driver in their main team to THR Yellow, so not really sure what's going on. As to Vite, pops to the top of your list with that 50.4, so already we're seeing those times come down, John.
Yeah, and just before we went to fight set that time, I was, you know, about to say that I predict the qualifying pole position time to be a 50.4, so that's, at the moment, unless anyone can go quicker than Tveit, that's a terrific time by him.
You'll see a 50.3. I definitely think you'll see a 50.3 take the pole position. At 50.4, I think you're leaving it close if that's the fastest time you can come up with at the start. I do think Golenbeck will go quick. I think Heineman will go quick. I think Butcher, I think maybe Butcher topped out maybe at 50.5, but somebody's going to have to dig down and hit that 50.3. I think that they want to claim that pole position here.
Yeah, well, time will tell. Of course, it's difficult. I mean, 50.3 is definitely a time that a few drivers have been capable of doing. and in this qualifying session they do have 10 minutes to do it, so it's not as if it's a super pole lap. But also the track being quite short helps that, because you just need to nail 3 corners effectively, or 4 corners, to get a good lap time. But because these drivers, you know, spend hundreds of laps practicing, I mean, Golombek, you know, there's only 2 guys that have done a 0.3 so far in practice, and that's Golombek and Heinemann, both of which have completed more than 250 laps each. So it's definitely not impossible that we'll see the pole position time in the 0.4s, but also at the same time, Golombek and Heinemann, judging by their practice pace, should be able to break into the 0.3s, as Danny was saying. But it is Erik de Veit, the Norwegian for Ice Cold, that is at the front at the moment on his 50.497, and we have 5 minutes to go in quali. He will be delighted with that lap, because he was actually sitting in third in live racers on a 0.44, so he's only half a tenth of what he was capable of in the practice session, so he'll be very impressed with that.
And you're seeing there in now bumped down to 5th position, Kevin Siggy and Hyman both go quicker in that. No, Siggy's actually quicker in the 2nd sector, yeah, so he's actually got a chance to take this pole position for positive sim racing. So far, Siggy's been doing that one. The ace goes on like a little bit of way there. It looks like he's both clear. Let's see if Siggy can do it. He's closing on the line. Wow, I think that ice cold car kind of derailed him. That's unfortunate now that we have Tim Hyman coming out of that final corner. Let's see what he can do here, John.
Yeah, so Heinemann's just about to come across the line. Let's see where this lap will put him. If he's got a good last sector, I'm not sure if he did, and he didn't end up getting a good last sector, and he remains in 5th position. And it shows you he's only 0.17 off the pole position time, yet he's down, you know, on the 3rd row of the grid. So it's showing you just how much you need to nail a perfect lap. And it also shows you that if you're, you know, a driver that can be expected to be as high up, how much that can have the short track can have an effect on you.
So Veit has something right in that 3rd sector, but it seems like it's pretty common for drivers to beat him in that 1st sector, and then especially in that 2nd sector we're seeing drivers, again, Hyman is able to make a lot of time in that 2nd sector onto Veit, but it seems like in this 3rd sector to Veit really just nails the power coming out that final corner, turn 4, and is able to get to the start-finish straight just faster than anyone else basically. But let's see if Hyman can now challenge this time. Did he get a good exit out turn 4? No, again, I mean, drivers are losing just a ton of time to Veit out of that final corner. I'm not sure if it's the setup or it's just to Veit's driving style, but he's got that car, that ice cold machine, just hooked up in that final sector. And so, John, maybe to Veit's time can hold here, because again, Hyman goes quicker in that 1st sector. I suspect he'll go quicker in the 2nd sector, but it's this 3rd sector that's really doing the rest of the drivers in. As Lee Palmer has jumped up to 8th position, is now also quicker through that 1st sector, but he actually backs out that lap. But Lee Palmer, see, and this is what we're talking about, you know, this track kind of jumbling up the field as Hyman goes quicker again through that 2nd sector as we predicted. But it just shows, it goes to show you have Lee Palmer inside the top 10. Kevin Siggy's doing very well. Kenneth Yerman in there, and Yerman's usually a pretty quick driver. But again, we're seeing a nice and jumbled up grid as Hyman continues not to be able to beat to Veit's time, but he does improve and goes to 3rd, relegates Chris Butcher to 4th.
Yeah, that's a nice lap from Tim, but as you know, Eric's obviously absolutely nailed the last sector. You know, there's a chance he could have had a slipstream there, but Heinemann seems to, no matter how good his final corner is, he just seems to lose a tenth or two in that last section. So it's a bit strange to see, but he has managed to get himself onto the 2nd row, and I'm not sure that Eric's time will be toppled off in the end. Well, obviously they're not far off it, but a 0.497 is a very, very good lap time by Eric, so if he can get a pole position, that'll be great for his confidence. And as you were saying, Lee Palmer put in a great lap to put himself inside the top 10. But yeah, very exciting session so far. I should probably mention the one man who's been one of the stars of the season, Chris Hack, having some great runs for Core. He unfortunately is not going to make this event, which is going to hurt his championship position quite badly. So that's a real shame we're missing him, but of course we have enough drivers to fill in the void.
Yeah, it's quite unfortunate about that. And then about Ice Cold, their engineer actually, their setup engineer actually gave me, he sent me a message saying that it is pretty much that those Ice Cold setups are the reason, you know, to Veit's doing so well. So I mean, we have that. That's been a factor all season. That ice cold setup has been so good. We saw it in pre-quali. We've seen the pace from Veit at places like Road Atlanta. So I mean, this team has things together. So again, they might just have a better setup than the rest of the teams going into the day here. As we're seeing Shell Stenbeck actually up from Division 2 here, riding 14th so far. I mean, the thing about Shell here, he's been very consistent for OSR. And again, with this team, I think Florian Voigt is pretty much the lead guy with this team, him and Matej Orban. But Stenbeck has done well to kind of just continue to put in good results and work his way in Division 1. So it's good to see him up there. As Oscar Hardwick told me, he only jumped on maybe an hour before the race started to get his time, because his car seemed, his engine, if I'm not mistaken, was throwing a little smoke up there. But maybe that's just something I'm picking up here on RRD viewer. But regardless, Oscar Hardwick sitting inside that top 10, doing very well for a guy who hasn't done too much testing, I must say, John.
Yeah, and I think that was a bit of smoke actually coming out. He's obviously using a very small radiator in the qualifying session to get the most out of the engine over a course of a few laps. But the reason I was showing Kjell Stenbeck is he is, of course, a new driver to this Division 1, so it's going to be interesting to see what he can do. And the other new name we have for this one is going to be Luka Peklaj down in 19th. But look at the name in 20th. Jesper Tolberg is 20th. This is going to be his final lap. And he's down there in 20th. His lap before this one, he was only in 21st, so it's not as if he's just not got a clean lap in. He's now put in 2 consistent laps, both of which have left him outside, almost outside the top 20. So this really needs to be a good one from the Iceman to put him further up the grid. Let's see what he can do, because from 20th, overtaking is going to be very difficult. Tolberg will cross the line. Will he improve? It didn't look like, and he does improve to 13, so he's managed to get himself 7 places further up, but he's still got 13 or 12 cars, I should say, in front of him on the grid, so he'll be absolutely gutted with that.
Now, Tolberg's been, I think, one of the biggest enigmas for this championship. I mean, he starts off at Monza, wins the first race, and not to take anything away from our pole man, Eric Tavite, who did a tremendous job. I mean, you called it. You called it, John. I mean, that 50.4 is just good enough to hold on to that pole position, so well done to him. But to Tolberg, I mean, he's been an enigma for this entire championship. Here's a guy, and I think maybe he's actually trying to finish this lap here, and I think he will be able to get this thing in. He's about 2 tenths down. If he finishes that puts him about, roughly 6 to 7. So this is the last gasp chance here for the Iceman. Can he salvage something out this quality session? I think, yeah, he's actually going to get this to the stripe. Let's see what Tolberg can come up with. No, he cannot improve. So wow, it's Tolberg 13th. He sits 6th in 5th in the championship standings, and is a driver that just hasn't been able to, get that outright pace to really challenge for the top spots. But John, seeing as this is the grid, I'll hand it back over to you so you can run through it for us.
Yeah, so a very interesting qualifying session, and we'll head to a break just after. But it is going to be Eric Tavite on pole position for Ice Cold with the 50.497. So none of the Spade guys managed to get in a better time in the end. Marius Gollenbeck is second with a 50.51, and Tim Heinemann on a 50.55. Our championship leader not showing the dominance so far, but that is to be expected on a track as tight as this. Chris Butcher, he's had amazing form the last 3 times he's been at Norisring in the Touring Pro Series. He has indeed won, so he'll be looking to continue that streak from 4th position. Eric Strana is 5th with Kevin Siggy in 6th. Kenneth Uhrman is starting in 7th with Boyd Bryson in 8th. Lee Palmer begins in 9th, which is good for him, a top 10, with Pipo Rodriguez in 10th. Then we go down the standings a little bit. We have Sergio Jr. for Ghost Speed starting from 11th, and Oscar Hardwick in 12th. Jesper Tolberg a disappointing 13th ahead of Heinz Petzold for Core Racing. Diogo Silva in 15th, our former championship leader, way down the field for this one, with Florian Voita for Optimum in 16th. Kjell Stenbeck in 17th, and Mate Orban in 18th. Gary Lennon will be starting in 19th position, and rounding off the 10th row is Santiago Niza for Positive Sim Racing. Then we have Luka Peklaj in 21st with Thomas Erzin in 22nd. We will tell you a little bit of a story about him in just a minute. Miguel Cardoso will begin from 23rd with Anders Nielsen in 24th. Emil Selberg is starting in 25th with David Yunt in 26th. Diogo Quaresma 27th, and Thomas Matazowski for THR starting in 28th. Ole Marius Myrvold will begin in 29th, and Davy van der Venne rounds out the 15th row with Fabio Asencal bringing up the rear on a 51.7. So that is your grid for the first race, and we'll be back in just a moment with action from race 1, round 4 of the Virtual Carrera Cup.
GamePod, the ultimate race rig for those serious about sim racing, puts you in the driver's seat with all the controls at your fingertips. Be number 1 on the road, in the race, in the game. GamePod, the choice of champions.
InsideSimRacing.tv, the fastest show on the internet. Sim racing news and reviews since 2007, with new shows every week.
So before we jump into our first race, here's a look at the spotter guide where you can see the championship standings, and you can also see what liveries your favourite drivers will be racing in. And while you have a look at that, I'll tell you a quick story about Thomas Erzin. We actually expected him not to be racing here today because he had to take his wife to hospital, I believe that's the story. But he's managed to come back in time and still take part in the race, which is great to see. And of course you have to put life in front of sim racing at times, but it's great to see his commitment there and getting back and still taking part in the race. So a nice wee story there for the core racing driver.
And just another update for our viewers here before we get back in game. I'm actually receiving word from the THR camp that they have no idea where Toby Davis is. There's even speculation going that his car broke down on his way home. So they're really not sure what's going on with Toby Davis. Obviously, he's the leader of that team, and for him to kind of flake on the team like he has done today, perhaps there are some extenuating circumstances to keep him from the race. So certainly something we'll try to get updates to you viewers as to whereabouts of Toby Davis as things progress here.
Yeah, we appear to have lost Toby Davis, but anyway, that's a real shame for him because he will be, of course, missing this round and it won't help his championship. But we're not sure about the circumstances, so we'll bring you updates if we get them. And the one man I was going to mention did a great job in qualifying and has been quick all week, especially in practice, Kevin Siggy. He's quickest in warm-up again, so he's showing that he's got really good pace here today. And let's see if he can transform that into race pace, because he hasn't managed to get in the best of results this season. But let's see if this can mark a change for the positive sim racing driver.
Yeah, I believe he's the only positive sim racing driver on the grid. Actually, no, Santiago Nazar, his teammate, is also out there today. So positive sim racing, they've done very well since coming into TPS, and they continue to kind of develop their brand and their speed over the course of this championship.
Yes, so we are about to head into the race. I believe the race distance is 34 laps, am I right there, Danny?
35.
Almost, one off. That's one thing I always get wrong. So we have a 35 lap race here at Norisring, one of two races that will be coming to you this evening. And as the cars line up on the grid, it will be Eric Tveit for Ice Cold, starting on the pole position. Marius Golombek alongside. I'm going to ask you, Danny, what's your prediction for this one?
You know what? I'm going to go Chris Butcher here. Chris Butcher, we have a stat. He's won the last 3 races he's done here at the Norisring over the TPS. And he's done 5 races, was okay for the first 2, but the last 5 he is undefeated. So I mean, this is the driver to watch here at Norisring. He owns this track. He very much likes driving here, and this is kind of where he kind of broke through as a TPS top driver. I mean, he had races before his first one at Norisring that came in Canada and World Supertech at the time, which was the name of that league back then. But once he won here in WTM at Norisring, it kind of solidified him as a legitimate driver. I mean, he beat Toby Davis that day. He was going against some of the best drivers in TPS, and he came out on top, and that was really the kind of start of the new Chris Butcher, the consistent top finisher within the TPS. I know he got a win just last week in VSS at Jacarapagua, another track that he just has a way of winning on, because that's kind of Chris Butcher's his mantra. He might not win other races, but there's certain tracks that the TPS series comes to, and he just finds a way to get it done. Jacarapagua Curve of Soul is one of them, and now here at Norisring, this is a guy who just understands these tracks. So I fully expect Chris Butcher to have a good drive here today.
Yeah, well, you've got a lot of justification for the reasoning. I'm actually going to go for this one with Marius Golombek, and I would have said Heinemann, but if I can remember from Road Atlanta, we saw how much pace Golombek showed during the race that it really shocked us all, and we really expected Heinemann to walk away, and that wasn't necessarily the case. So my man for this one is Marius Golombek. I've been commentating with him for 4 hours already today, and he's a really good guy to talk to, so it was nice to get to know him a little bit better, and he'll be starting on the front row, and I'm sure he'll be very tired, but let's hope it doesn't affect him too much. As the cars now begin to slow down and get into their grid slots, we go on board with the front of Eric Tveit's car, as he is going to lead the marauding pack of flat sixes into turn 1 at Norisring. And lights are about to go on here once the final cars reach their grid spot. So will it be Ice Cold? Will it be Spade? or will it be THR that come away with the win here? We're about to find out very shortly. Just waiting on the lights on the gantry just above there. Obviously, a few drivers at the back of the grid taking quite a while, but the red lights are on, I believe. And we're about to go green here. We do seem to be taking an awful long time to get going here. I'm not sure what's happened, but there we go. Finally, the red lights have come on again, and Eric Tveit is away from the grid. It looks like a good start for him. Gollenbeck, you're going to go 4 wide into turn 1. Tveit's is on the second to inside, but it looks like Heinemann's got the inside line. Also Butcher and Gollenbeck, they're going 4 wide into turn 1. Crazy stuff at the start of this race, and I'm not sure who's going to be in the lead by the end of it. It looks like it's between Tveit and Heinemann as they head towards turn 2 and 3 chicane. Tveit's got a great start. Heinemann obviously has jumped his teammate Gollenbeck, who's dropped back to 4th, and Butcher looking around the outside of the Spade Racing car. There's contact between them, and Butcher looks like he's moved up to 2nd. That was Lee Palmer spinning out from a stunning qualifying, but it is Eric Tveit from Chris Butcher. They head now towards turn 4 hairpin. Will Butcher hold his line on the inside? He defends nicely. Heinemann's got so much pace, he's going to try and go around the outside, but Butcher's got enough track to be able to get the power down and block off Heinemann. So it is Eric Tveit from Chris Butcher and the 2 Spade drivers as we approach the end of lap 1.
Now, I just want to point out what Chris Butcher did in that first lap there. Obviously, Heinemann had the inside for this first corner just a lap ago. It looked like he had the advantage on everybody, and he takes a dive down. Chris Butcher, that's a very deep lunge. That was never going to work, Tim. Wow, that was a bit into fight. No, Tveit, we've lost him again. The disconnection, woes continue.
Oh, he's back.
What? No, Tveit's back in it? What?
Oh, this is carnage. We have no idea what's happening. Tveit's connection's obviously something seriously wrong with it, but he's reappeared now, and somehow everyone's still facing the right way and still going, but it's Chris Butcher who leads the race from Tim Heinemann. Eric Tveit's in 3rd and Gollenbeck's in 4th. Heinemann's going to have a look down the inside of Butcher heading into this turn. We'll see if we can jump to the copper cam for a great shot there of the final corner as they head down towards the end of lap 2, but Eric Tveit having more connection issues there, Danny.
Yeah, and I hope that, I mean, we're seeing lag here on the broadcast. I'm hoping that for the drivers, it's a little bit more consistent, that his car's just not, disappearing and reappearing like that, because that could definitely cause drama there. But I feel very bad for Butcher there, having to deal with, I felt that his fellow drivers a little bit aggressive with him. They really made contact to kind of get him out the way. And I thought Chris Butcher's car position was very good. Just didn't quite, I think, deserve how they dealt with him. But Heinemann, he's got an absolute rocket at the front. He just wasn't staying behind anyone, really, as now Tveit, though, has streamed right back up to him. And it seems like these are the 2 cars that just faster than anyone else on this grid right now. And right now we're seeing this fight for the win, Tveit versus Heinemann.
Yep, and out of the top 4 now, our 2 predictions are 3rd and 4th, and the 2 quickest guys are the ones we didn't predict, so it shows a lot about us. But it's going to be Heinemann from Eric Tveit, Chris Butcher in 3rd. Tveit sets fastest lap in the race on a 51.1 second. Diogo Silva has been in the pit, so his nightmare continues after a dodgy round last time out at Road Atlanta. We're going to see if we have any retirements. I don't believe we do so far, just looking back. Davy van der Venne is actually a lap down. And we've obviously had a big incident at the back of the field, just noticing there. Ole Marius Murvold, Gary Lennon, van der Venne, Fabio Asencow, Boyd Bryson and Thomas Erzin all showing in the pits. So we've obviously missed a major incident. We do apologise for that. But it's been such good racing at the front, it's kind of difficult to take our eyes off it. But that is the rundown of the rest of the field. And as you say, it does look like Heinemann and Tveit at the moment. Butcher defending well his 3rd position, but Eric Strand is actually pushing it hard now. He's kind of snuck up behind them and it's made it a 5-car battle. And the man we were talking about earlier, Kevin Siggy, is the man in 6th position.
Yes, Siggy's looking good. He's capitalizing off a strong quality result. Strand, I remember, he qualied a very quiet 5th position, held position through these first few laps. Jasper Talbert up to 8th position. Oh, and Siggy taking a lunge on Strand. That was never going to work. These guys have to calm it down through that first corner because we're seeing a lot of just mistimed braking maneuvers here. I mean, guys are just going way too deep into that corner, being very dangerous. So hopefully that clears out as things progress. We're seeing Kenneth Yerman for THR in behind Siggy there. I mean, Kenneth, we haven't said much about him, but he's looking very strong, and he's just kept his nose clean, stayed in behind his barrel with Siggy and Strana, hoping for his opening kind of just to present itself later on.
Oh,
just as we say
cursed him there.
Yerman goes for a spin right on cue, and then he falls back down to 10th position. Looks like he's going to even lose position to maybe even Hardwick when all things are said and done. Tveit is a man on a mission. 2 fastest laps in a row, taking a lunge now on Heinemann around the first corner. And no, Heinemann holds on to position, but Tveit it looks like he does not want to be denied that first position.
Yeah, definitely, and I do apologise to you, Kenneth. I didn't mean to do that, I promise. But Heinemann has held on to the lead from Eric Tveit. And going through turn 3, yeah, as you were saying, Tveit looking incredibly racy. And we're doing a bit of Noah's Ark at the moment. We've got Heinemann and Tveit in a good battle, then a bit of a gap between, and then Butcher and Golombek in 3rd and 4th. So our favourites are battling it out for 3rd position. As you can see, Golombek dives to the inside, and that'll be a great move if he can make it stick. Butcher will have a better run out of the corner, but if Golombek can get his car in front, which he has done, he will then hold the position. But Butcher's going to have a good slipstream. They now head down the home stretch. There's a flick to the right and then a hairpin, a left-hand hairpin just coming up here. And we could see some instants. They're also side by side for the lead, so we need to try and keep an eye on both battles. Let's see what's happening, first of all, with the leaders. And it's Heinemann who beats the battle with Tveit, and Butcher and Golombek are going at it hammer and tong here, swapping positions on almost every corner. And I'm not going to say who's in 3rd and who's in 4th, because it's a bit of both at the moment. They can't seem to settle down, and then right behind them as they still go side by side, and Golombek's going to hold it around the outside, stare at the wall, and he does manage to stare at the wall. And now Butcher's got the inside to the hairpin, demonstrating why Norisring is such a brilliant layout of track for exciting racing. And now Butcher has the inside line, so he's in the driving seat once again. And this could possibly go on for 35 laps, you never know.
Yeah, I mean, you're seeing for the full duration of that lap, they were side by side. It's absolutely insane the type of racing we're seeing here at the front. And Butcher, this is critical championship stuff. Golombek's got 2 points on him in the championship, and then Heinemann has 22 points on Chris. So Chris has to find a way to get up to Heinemann and get around the Spade Racing leading driver right now if he wants to make up points in this championship. Because Chris is 3rd, and so far he's still losing out to Spade Racing when all things are said and done. But meanwhile, a little further back, Kevin Siggy has gotten around Eric Strana for that 5th position. Jasper Talberg has moved up to 7th, of course, because Kenneth Yerman, remember, fell down to 10th position after that half spin in the final hairpin there. But we're still right on board with this beautiful chopper cam here, John, as Tveit continues to hammer at Tim Heinemann, trying to do his best to get that breakthrough race win in VCC.
Yeah, definitely. As we're just looking back to see if we've got any retirements at the moment, doesn't look like it, but it's still Heinemann from Tveit, from Butcher, and these guys continue to battle. Kevin Siggy holds on to 5th position, and he did get past Eric Strana, which is a bit surprising actually, because I thought Eric looked like he was putting a challenge to the Spade and THR guys in front of him, but it's Kevin Siggy he's ended up battling with, and that's to take nothing away from Siggy because he's been so quick during the practice sessions. It looks like Yunt is also retired from the race. He's now 2 laps down, and Diogo Silva 1 lap, so a high attrition rate already here. That's 8 cars, I believe, at least a lap down in this one, so that's a bit of a shame to see. But at the front of the race, these guys are having an absolute ball of a time, and as we've said, it's Heinemann and Tveit, Butcher and Golombek, Siggy and Strana, with Strana going very hard on the back of the positive sim racing car. Jesper Talberg has managed to get up to 7th from 13th on the grid, so he's obviously made up 6 positions. But it shows you how a qualifying can affect your race. He's clearly shown good race pace, but he's down in 7th position and nowhere near Heinemann or Golombek. Then we have Junior in 8th with Heinz Petzold in 9th, and is that a damage on Petzold's car? No, I'm not sure that was Petzold.
Yes, the Petzold has damage. Hardwick also has damage down there. Cardosa even just went through it for a spin about a half a lap ago, so these guys are in a bit of trouble here. They're certainly losing parts pretty quickly here.
Yeah, the easiest one to spot has to be Oscar's bright pink car. I mean, I did notice that one earlier on and thought it was only Marius Murvold, but he's not the only pink car for once. So Oscar Hardwick clearly suffering from a bit of damage after a good qualifying position. And that's Diego Quaresma also in the pit lane, I'm just noticing down there in 23rd position. But yeah, there's good battles going on throughout the field, but it's still Heinemann from Tveit, and Tveit's he's been there for the last few laps. Now Heinemann's just set the fastest lap of the race, but even though he has, Eric Tveit was looking like making a move there. Was that maybe that was a back marker I was seeing? I thought that was Eric Tveit passing Heinemann, but it was actually the THR driver letting Heinemann by. So must be a lap down. I think that might.
Yeah, I believe that's David Yunt down there. Yeah. Was just moving out the way. But if we could just ride on board. Actually, no, the battle between Sahlberg was going against Pipo Rodriguez down in, I believe, 17th and 18th position, but the gap has kind of pulled itself out because Cardoso was actually in this fight, and who was that? Lee Palmer right in front, that heavy slide around that first corner.
I think that was Sahlberg. I think that was Selberg ahead of people.
You're right. That was Solberg with the heavy slide there. Got my cars mixed around there, but Cardoso actually spun from this battle a few laps ago, which was very unfortunate. As you're seeing, the leaders now doing that's faster than quali, that 50.4 there. So as these tires come into their own, you're seeing these guys just going quicker and quicker, and that's, I guess that kind of explains how Tim Hyman was able to do that 50.2 in the earlier in the week of testing, because maybe that time even came under race conditions once the tires got up to temperature, because that seems to be the formula in these flat six cars, to get those tires nice and heated and then go out and hit your fastest laps.
Yeah, I'm getting the feeling that Eric Tveit, the only way he's staying with Heinemann is by pushing as hard as he can, and as soon as he doesn't nail the perfect lap, he seems to be dropping a bit of time. But look at him in the last sector. We saw it in qualifying as well. Tveit gains so much in that final sector, and he's not going to be close enough to make a move now, but knowing Eric, it could come at any time. He could surprise us, but I think I definitely is too far back for turn one. We'll see how they go in.
The last lap, I mean, Tveit hit the fastest lap of the race, was even faster than Hyman, so I think Hyman's going to have trouble shaking Tveit for the entirety of this race, because I remember talking to Tveit about this after Road Atlanta. He thought that he had a better car under race conditions than the Spade guys. He felt that he kept his tires in check even longer than they did. Tveit may not be known for his tire conservation skills because he drives just so wild, just on the brink. The car is sideways practically from corner to corner, but he does feel with the Tom Ely, the team engineer's help, he feels that he's gotten the tire conservation down. He feels his ice core machine is very good under a full race run. So I think Hyman's going to really he's going to be pushed throughout the duration of this race. This is the first time we've seen this, John, because obviously Hyman's had to fight his teammate Marius Gollenbeck, but they're teammates. They're going to give each other room. Tveit is going to be more aggressive with Hyman when he gets there later on in this race. Remember, we got 35 laps to work with. We're not even halfway done this race, so plenty of time for Tveit to plan out his move and get the job done against the Spade Racing driver here.
Yeah, definitely, and I think for Tveit it'll be an important victory, because it's been a long time since he's visited the victory lane of TouringProSeries. He had a run in the what was formerly known as WTM in his Rover, where he was winning loads of races, and also he won quite a few in the minis, but at the moment he just seems to be struggling with getting race wins and getting the actual results on the board. He's had a lot of disconnections, he's had quite a few incidents. I mean, we saw him at Lebanon just I think about 6 weeks ago it would have been. We saw him have an absolutely spectacular roll, and he ran over quite a few virtual people on the rFactor game. Then also at the Road Atlanta round just 4 weeks ago, he created his own crash, which we now call the Tveit, where if you head out the last chicane you hit an anti-cut, which of course he did on the final lap of the race from second position, or third I believe it was. So yeah, he's definitely been struggling recently with form, and he needs to find some of that. He needs to rekindle some of that maturity during a race event to try and get to the finish and get the results, and he's showing it today by sticking it right with Tim Heinemann after 15 laps, and that's the same Tim Heinemann that at Lebanon and Road Atlanta, Danny, absolutely dominated the field.
Yeah, Hyman's been on a completely different level to everyone else, but the battle seems to be happening from 8th on back to 11th here. Oscar Harwick just got around Kenneth Uhrman on the exit of turn 4 of the previous lap, and now he's running in 8th position with a damaged car, mind you, Oscar Harwick has. We're seeing Mathieu Orban, Florian Voigt, and Heinz Petzer with Anders Nilsson, pretty much the optimum sim racing brigade here. Sorry if I get my words out. From 10th to 14th, you got 4 of their cars in those littered throughout those positions. So very interesting there. Obviously now we're back on board with Tim Hyman. He's got a slight gap here to Tveit, so he seems to have gotten Tveit has gotten out that toe a little bit. And Chris Butcher only 2.6 seconds off. Can Chris Butcher now? Because obviously Tveit won't have that toe. Maybe this is Chris's chance to kind of take some time off this front duo and see what he can do. But his time actually, Chris Butcher was 2.6, now it's 2.9. So Hyman, this is his chance now to put the foot down and see if he can now seize this race with a bit of space to Mr. Tveit in behind.
I mean, looking at the way those guys were setting fastest lap after fastest lap and really trading it about, I don't think, to be honest, Chris has the outright pace to catch the two of them. If there's a mistake or they start battling...
Sorry to interrupt you, Strana has some issues into the pit lane. He's now down to 10th position. Don't know what's going on with the ice cold car, but he's in the pits. Actually missed his stall. He's reversing as we speak, and I'm not sure what's going on, if he's fixing damage or I have no idea. Hopefully I can talk to my pit lane reporter to see that what the heck is going on with Strana. I'm hearing that it's just a flat-out pit stop. Well, hopefully we can figure out exactly what is going on here with Eric Strana, who pitted from 6th position.
Yeah, I mean, I was just trying to look at a replay there and I couldn't really see anything. The lag was quite bad, but a very peculiar incident. Not quite sure what was happening there, but that's ruined his race. And he was, of course, a championship contender earlier on in the season after a good event at Monza. So that's a shame for him. It means that Kevin Siggy will be safely in 5th position with a gap of about 3.5 seconds back to Jesper Tolberg in 6th now it'll be, and then he in turn has a big gap back to Oscar Hardwick in 7th. So yeah, that's kind of where the battles lie. It looks like it's the top 5 at the moment, and then you've got Jesper in the middle in 6th position, and then 7th to the rest of the field. Plus we have an awful lot of retirements. I mean, look at that, there's only 17 cars in the lead lap, and obviously Matizowski and Niza might not be retired, and because it's such a short lap, these guys are being lapped legitimately, as you can see, but a high attrition rate and not many drivers on the lead lap anymore.
Yeah, and you're seeing Strana just gets past, gets lapped rather. And like you were saying, John, I mean, he was one of the main championship protagonists, won pre-quali, did very well at Monza beside a few mistakes, was doing very good going into even the Road Atlanta, actually, but that was the turning point. He had to miss Road Atlanta, obviously, left to Vite on his own to kind of fend for himself in that race. And now, of course, that relegates Strana ways down the championship board. I think he sits 11th going into this race today, so obviously his championship is pretty much over at this point. We're still trying to figure out exactly what happened as to why he was pitting, but regardless, he goes a lap down. Kenneth Yerman back up to 8th. Oscar Hardwick up to 7th. Jasper Tolberg to 6th, with Kevin Siggy with a fair gap to him. Pretty much sitting pretty lonely there in 5th position. So, yeah, I mean, the race has not gone quite how we'd expect as there's Corning Fortet in 9th position, again leading the Optimum Sim Racing crew as 4 of their drivers are in Division 1.
Yeah, and Florian's on for one of his best TouringProSeries results in 9th, and just behind them, a big hit between Matti Orban and I believe that was a lapped car. It must have been
Mirabel.
It must be a lapped car. None of the positions were changing, but yeah, it was a big contact there on the exit of the hairpin. It looks like whoever the back marker was seemed to stop on the apex and was ploughed into by Orban. So I'm not quite sure how to judge that one, but that's what ended up. And oh, Orban's gone way too deep into turn 1, does well to keep out the tyre wall, and he's going to see if he can gain all those 3 positions he lost straight back on the exit because he was so far wide, and he's probably going to do it. That's incredible recovery from Orban in 2 corners, manages to lose 3 positions and gain them all back just by simply getting higher exit speed. But he has managed to do that and hold his top 10 position. But Florian Boite did a great job in 9th, as we now ride on board with Anders Nielsen in 12th. He's got Heinz Petzold just ahead of him, co-racing driver, and he looks to the inside, does Nielsen. I don't know if he's going to actually try and make the move, is he? He is. He goes down the inside, stays close to the wall, don't get the power down too early or you spin. But Heinz Petzold does seem to have held it on the outside line. They are going to go side by side now into the turn 1 hairpin, which I'm not going to pronounce, but no, actually, sorry, I forgot we decided to call it Game Pod hairpin.
That's actually a Sun Cao he was fighting with, and Sun Cao is not even on the lead lap, so I'm not really sure what he's doing. We're seeing a fair bit of lap traffic into that battle we were just covering. Like I said, Mirabel was in there, Sun Cao was also around there. So those lap traffic guys, they really need to watch themselves with racing around the guys on the lead lap. It looked like they were fighting for position the way Sun Cao was fighting or holding up Anders Nielsen. So that's definitely something we don't want to see here on the broadcast. But regardless, Tim Hyman continued to extend the gap to Hyman, or to Vite rather, and Chris Butcher now 3.5 seconds off the leader. So it seems to be that the Spade Racing car that Hyman's in is just better than that THR machine of Chris Butcher's. And pretty much Spade Racing has a vice grip on the team's championship. They're leading it by something like 150 points, or 149 points even. So you got to think Spade Racing have it in the bag at this point, because I mean, when you have Goldenbeck and Hyman, who are just getting, they're finishing pretty much 1-2 every other race, so they're untouchable at this point and continuing to show that tremendous form here at Norisring.
But I mean, saying that about Spade Racing, of course they have been dominant in the last few rounds, but if you look at the top 5 in this race, we have 4 different teams in it. Tim Heineman, the only Spade driver. Speaking of Heineman, he's just done a 50.3 with no draft, 23 laps into a race run, and that is a 10th quicker than our pole position time. So that just shows you what kind of form he's in, and no wonder Eric Tveit has just hit the wall trying to push harder and keep up with him. Hopefully Eric's got no damage from that one, but I was about to say I think the race isn't over if Heinemann makes a mistake, but I don't think he will in his current form. He's so quick, and even though Tveit was unbelievably quick early on in the race, I don't think he could have maintained that for 35 laps straight. So we saw him push early on, and it was good to see Eric give it a right good go, but because he couldn't get the move done, the sheer speed that Tim Heinemann has meant that Eric Tveit had to push 100% every lap to keep up with him, and it just seems to be slipping a little bit at the moment.
I think Tveit's car is still in relatively good position, good shape, wear-wise. I think he was like on a 50.6, 50.5 the previous lap, but of course, like you said, John, it's just not quite up to what Heinemann's doing. Heinemann goes to 50.6, but regardless, Tveit is still not. He's 1.4 seconds off the leader here when he was just about 0.4 a few laps ago. So of course, it seems like Heinemann is checking out at this stage of the event.
Yeah, so we have 11 laps to go in the first race at Norisring. Going to run you through the top 16 while we get a chance. It's Tim Heinemann in the lead from 50 points on a, sorry, his last lap time was 50.658. He's 1.5 seconds ahead of second place man Eric Tveit as we watch a replay, I believe, of Orban passing Petzold, I think. So Eric Tveit is in second, 1.6 seconds off Heinemann. Chris Butcher runs in third position, a full 5 seconds off the leader, but still a good position, with Marius Golombek dropping back from Chris, actually, 1.5 seconds back in fourth. Then it's Kevin Siggy doing a great job for Positive Sim Racing in fifth position. Jesper Tolberg, a great fight back to get through to sixth place. Oscar Hardwick is having a nice run in seventh with that damaged Porsche. Florian Voita is in eighth, and if he can, I'm not 100% sure about this, but I believe if he finished there, that would be his best TouringProSeries result. But don't quote me on that because I'm not 100% sure. And the man you watch right now, Mate Orban, his teammate, is in 9th, and Heinz Petzold in 10th after an eventful race. Kenneth Uhrman is 11th for THR Green, with Nielsen running in 12th. Kjell Stenbeck on his debut in Division 1 is in 13th, holding off the charging Englishman Lee Palmer, who spun out of turn 1 from a stunning qualifying position. So he'll be looking for revenge on that one, and that looks like a good battle happening there. Palmer looked on the inside, didn't manage to make it stick, and made a bit of contact. As long as he doesn't gain anything from that, that'll be absolutely fine, I'm sure. Luca Peklaj is in 15th position, our other debutant in Division 1, and I just missed who was in 16th there. But well, I'm sure we'll see in just a minute.
I believe it's Pipo Rodriguez for GT Competizione.
Yes,
it actually
yes.
He's destroying his teammate Diego Silva, which we chronicled a little earlier. Silva obviously falling a lap down after running into trouble early. So Pipo holds 16th position.
And if I'm not mistaken, Pipo didn't start the season in Division 1, if I can remember. He's only recently going to Division 1. Is that right?
He was there in Monza. He had such a difficult time in Monza. I think 2 DNFs, fell back to Division 2, worked his way back up to Division 1 at Road Atlanta, and has now, of course, been with us here in round 4. So it's been an up and down season for people. He showed brilliant pace at times. He's shown he flipped his car at one point during Monza. So it's kind of hard to gauge exactly how good Rodriguez has been. But if there's one thing that can be said about the GT competition on his driver, is that he's got heart and that he goes out there and gives it his all. So I personally, I quite like watching Pipo Rodriguez out here every other Saturday in this Flat 6 car.
But you have to say, as a whole, GT Competizione have had a great season so far. I mean, they led the championship for a few rounds. They've had a lot of drivers up there in such a highly competitive championship. It's got to be their best season so far in the TouringProSeries. So those guys have done a great job, and Pipo's demonstrating that now, making up positions up to 15th position ahead of Luca Peklaj. But it continues to be the same story at the front. I'm just looking at the positions, and there's no real battles going on at the front, which is why we're focusing on the mid-pack here. And it's the battle begins, it looks like, at Mate Orban in 9th position. He's only got half a second as Pipo Rodriguez drifts it into turn 1, and they're going to go 3 wide out of there, and there's a little bit of argy-bargy on the exit, but Pipo holds a position from Luca Peklaj. But yeah, it's Orban in 9th, Heinz Petzold in 10th position, Optimum driver and the core driver respectively. Kenneth Uhrman for THR Green is 11th after his spin, Anders Nielsen 12th, and then you've got the battling Kjell Stenbeck, Lee Palmer, Pipo Rodriguez and Luca Peklaj. So that's kind of where the battle lies at the moment, and I believe that's Emil Selberg also in that one. So
to your point about
actions happening.
To your point about GT Competizione in this championship, certainly the best effort in TPS by far. The thing is, though, they kind of left me wanting more from this outfit, because right now they sit fourth in the overall team standings, and they've got Core Racing in front of them. Core has been absolutely phenomenal this year, so I'm not taking anything away from Core, and THR is also in front of them. But you're seeing GT Competizione with 290 points, about 12 points off THR Orange or Yellow, whatever the heck they go by. And today is a classic example of, you know, points that GT Competition is leaving on the table. Obviously, Toby Davis is out. THR Orange is ripe for the taking. And all Rodriguez and Silva have to do is get us average drive together. And we're seeing Silva, I think, 21st or 22nd, and People Rodriguez obviously down in 15th. So certainly they're just not taking advantage of the opportunity that the championship has given them to kind of just jump up into that second position and, you know, really fight against Core Racing to get above them even. So certainly GT Competition, they have something to look at, you know, going into the following rounds and how they're executing these races.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I mean, I'd have to agree with you about the GT Competizione. They do seem to have the potential, but it's good to see they're beginning to fulfill it in the series. Yeah. I would like to say the driver I've been impressed with in this race, Oscar Hardwick, is in 7th position. He's struggled at the season.
What's going on with Hyman? Are we just seeing some lag here, or is he falling through the field? No, I think it's just some lag down. I'm sorry. That looks like there's a timing glitch. I believe he's still leading the race. Don't worry that he's falling down to 12th. Tveit is still behind him. But sorry to cut in on you there, John.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Well, I think we'll see what happens when he crosses the line. But yeah, I did get the fright there when I saw him dropping back. But yeah, Oscar Hardwick in 7th position, doing a great job for Smile. And he missed the start of the season, so he's managed to work his way up to Division 1. And he's making basically his return to TouringProSeries after a spell on the sidelines, and he's proving his worth once again in the series and showing that he, as a Tim Top driver, he's among the best there is. And it looks like I'm not sure if that is just timing problems or it's showing Ewerman's a lap down. So obviously Tim Heinemann, the track being so short, only 50-second laps, is managing to get through and lap quite a number of these drivers. It looks like not even the top 16 now are on the lead lap. So it's interesting to see how small the field is actually, how small the track I should say, but how widespread the field is.
And it's also worth noting that we've got all 31 runners still in the event today. Some of them are, of course, 3 laps down, but it's great to see that we don't have a single DNF. The first time we've seen this all year. Obviously, still 3 laps, 4 laps remaining in this event today, but so far we're looking for a very rare thing in TPS where you're seeing every race runner finish. So hopefully we'll actually see this happen today, John.
So we are now on lap 32 out of 35. We only have 3 to go. And Heinemann is looking absolutely dominant there. Just needs to be careful with the back markers. That was a close call, but managed to stay close to the wall and avoid hitting the back marker there and causing a big crash and possibly some very controversial moments in the championship. But thankfully he manages to prevent that and continues to lead from Erik Tveit.
That was son Cal again. That we saw him in a bit of a hairy moment with another driver. I believe it was Stenbeck or Palmer early in the race. So I mean, son Cal. I mean, I'm not really sure who he's fighting against. He's got Thomas Erzin that's a fair ways behind him. Not really sure why he's contesting being lapped so hard, but hopefully we don't see an incident caused from that, because that's certainly a little bit dicey. I'm thinking what we're seeing from that Ghost Speed driver.
Yeah, he has seemed to be involved in a few times when we've looked at drivers. Maybe it's just the wrong place at the wrong time and is getting unlucky with the cameras and the broadcasters. Was that Asenkow again, plowing into the wall? So obviously we're just viewing him, looking back, not expecting to be on camera at all in this one. And unfortunately, he has been caught a few times, making some errors. And who's that spinning? I think that's Ole Marius Myrvold.
Yeah, it's Myrvold.
Just thinking it was Oscar Hardwick for a second, but no, it is Myrvold. And he's going to lose a lot of time there. But Heinemann, on course, well on course for his 5th victory in 5 races. He didn't do the job in Monza, but since then he has been utterly dominant, and he's now built up a 4-second lead over Tveit. Tveit's obviously given up of winning this race, and unless a mistake happens, he will finish in 2nd place. He just wants to bring the car home. Saying that, Chris Butcher only 2.6 seconds back. I don't think it's close enough.
Yeah, he'll never have enough time to get to Erik Tveit. Very impressed with Tveit holding that position like he has. I was expecting a little bit more from going back. Obviously going back, almost won race 2 at Road Atlanta. Wasn't able to really go after Chris Butcher once the race developed a bit more. Well, it looks like he's going to finish about 8.5 seconds off his teammate, but in I believe 2nd in the championship. I think he's going to lose. He's going to obviously now lose out to Butcher. And of course he's going to lose that to his teammate Hyman. So Gumbick's going to have to really step it up a notch if he wants to come out with a good point score in comparison to both Butcher and Hyman in race 2. Then.
So we are now on the last lap, and we are on board with our race leader Tim Heinemann as he approaches the chicane in the middle of the track for the final time. This is turn 2 and 3, known as the Scholler S corner, and I'm sorry if I butchered that pronunciation, but of course the German track names are always very notoriously difficult to pronounce if you're not indeed German. Heinemann now heading towards the hairpin bend, and I'm not even going to attempt this one because I attempted it earlier and then we decided there and then that would be the last time that would ever be attempted. Heading through now the final turn 6, and it's going to be Tim Heinemann takes his 5th win in 5 starts in the Virtual Carrera Cup, and his run continues, Danny.
Very well done for Hyman. Just been on fire, like you were saying, John. He's on that Keithley Tallberg level, just ripping off race after race after race after race. Absolutely tremendous stuff. Tveit finishes 2nd. Chris Butcher rounds out your podium. Marius Golenbeck for Spade Racing in 4th position was Kevin Siggy. Tremendous result for the Positive Sim Racing driver in 5th position. So well done to him and the team for that. Jesper Tallberg, the 3rd Spade Racing driver, did very well to recover from a 13th Q spot to finish 6th position. Oscar Harwood, I agree with you, John. Probably the drive of the afternoon with a damaged car for Smile Power. Finishes inside the top 10 on 7th there. Florian Voita for Optimum Sim Racing has his teammate Matty Orban finish right behind them, 8th and 9th. Heinz Petzold, Core Racing. For Heinz and Core have been very good this season, but 10th position, another solid result from Kenneth Yerman. Recovers from a spin earlier to finish 11th for THR. Anders Nilsson on 12th for Optimum Sim Racing with Kel Stenbeck right in behind him. Nice debut for Stenbeck. Lee Palmer finishes 14th, not as good as his qualifying position, but still solid spot. People Rodriguez, 15th for GT Competizione. Emil Selberg there for Ice Cold, 16th. Miguel Cordosa, 17th. Thomas Manazowski, 18th for Diogo Silva, recovering to finish 19th with Eric Strana. Still can't get any word on what the heck is going on with Strana in the pit stop. Finishes 20th position. Remember, he pitted from 5th position, or 6th position, rather, right in behind Kevin Siggy. No one knows what the heck's going on. I've sent my pit lane reporters around. No one can really get word from Strana as to what the heck was he thinking or what kind of situation that was, but finishes 20th position for Eric Strawn. 21st position, Luca Pecklash for Core Race. Remember, this is also his debut in Division 1. 22nd, Santiago Nazar for Positive Sim Racing. Gary Lennon, David Yunt in there, 23rd position for THR. Diogo Quaresma, GT Competizione in for 24th. Gary Lennon, 25th for Ice Cold. Fabio Sancal had a pretty rocky race, but finishes 26th for Go Speed. Thomas Erzin, Core Racing. Davey Van der Veen, 28th position. Boyd Bryson, 29th. Boyd, he goes into this race, I believe, 6th in the championship, John, and that result certainly not what he's looking for. Obviously, I believe he ran into some trouble early. Sergio Jr. rounds out your field of your top 30 with at 31st is actually old Marius Miravold rounds out the grid. Everyone finished today. I believe that's the first time we've seen it in obviously the VCC. So very good milestone there to see everyone pull out, dig deep, and finish the race here, John.
Yes, so the run continues for Spade Racing and Tim Heinemann. It's 5 from 5 for him. And make sure you don't go anywhere. We're going to take a quick break, but we'll be back with live coverage from Norisring, round 4 of the Virtual Carrera Cup 2014 and Touring Pro Series. Don't go anywhere.
GamePod, the ultimate race rig for those serious about sim racing, puts you in the driver's seat with all the controls at your fingertips. Be number 1 on the road, in the race, in the game. GamePod, the choice of champions.
Inside SimRacing.tv, the fastest show on the internet. Sim racing news and reviews since 2007, with new shows every week.
So we are back here after a very exciting race one. And I say very exciting. There could have been more incidents than we saw a very exciting start of the race, but then it seemed to calm down quite a lot towards the end, and it was nice to see some clean driving, but also some great overtaking. So, Danny, I mean, who was your driver of the race there? Because obviously Tim Heinemann absolutely dominating, but a few names we could probably point out that also did a great job.
Yeah, I really like what I saw, of course, from Oscar Harwood. He had a damaged car, and obviously didn't have too much practice going into this thing, but he just did very well to keep his head together, even with the damaged Smile Power machine, finishing 7th. Very impressive from him. But Kevin Siggy, hats off to the guy for positive sim racing, continuing to help out, to improve himself and the team. So I'll probably have to give it to Siggy, because he was so consistent. He outdueled drivers like Eric Strana for Ice Cold. So that was very impressive for me, obviously, sitting in the commentary booth. So probably those two guys I'll have to tip the cap to as the guys that really impressed me the most, I would say. But just a quick note here. I guess you alluded to it somewhat there, John, about things getting a little bit more clean toward the end of the race. I mean, just a lot of crashes and incidents kind of start that whole thing off there. A lot of cars we saw, bumpers everywhere, littered throughout the track. A lot of guys driving with damaged cars through that race. So I'm pretty sure that drivers are now taking it upon themselves to make sure their car stays healthy for the duration of the event. Because listen, we're seeing Oscar Harwood get 7th with a damaged machine, but I mean, that's opportunity, okay, for guys further down the grid. That means if you can keep your car just healthy, you can go and ascend through the field as the race develops. You don't have to go through it for it all out in the first 2 laps. So I'm pretty sure usually things calm down in the second race here in VCC. I fully expect that here today, and I expect a little bit more cleaner racing for the second race here, John.
Yeah, I mean, I think what happened in that one, we saw 2 wide action, you know, the likes of Chris Butcher and Golombek going side by side for an entire lap, and it was very exciting. But there was also obviously a few people having issues from it, and I think the drivers just seemed to go, right, well, we need to calm down a little bit here. Everyone seemed to calm down a bit. The gap split up when drivers started actually focusing on just driving instead of defending and overtaking, and we began to see a bit of a spread in the field, and that's why the action kind of calmed down towards the end. So hopefully we kind of want a good, fair mixture. I mean, we don't want to see loads of crazy incidents and bumping and bashing, because that's not what it's all about. But what it is all about is having good fun, clean, exciting racing. So we want a bit of both here. We don't want gaps to increase massively, but at the same time we don't want cars to be hitting each other off the track. So it's about finding the perfect balance, and that's what Norisring's usually very good at providing. So hopefully and that's what I'm expecting for race 2, to be honest. Race 2 drivers always seem to be going, the drivers who did well in race 1 are satisfied with that. You might as well just go out in race 2 and have a good time, and whatever happens, it'll be a good event. The drivers who did badly in race 1 will be angry, and they'll be wanting desperately to do better in the second race. So that's what we'll see here. But we have actually begun the qualifying session now, and the early pace setter is Eric Strana for Ice Cold, and he's going to come across the line to complete another lap. I'm not sure if he's going to improve, but his pole position time so far is a 50.797. Will this improve his time? He does improve by a couple of hundreds, but Chris Butcher is purple through sector 2.
Now, you know, usually we give the drivers about a 5-minute cool down from race 1 to race 2. Instead, we go straight back into it, and guys are right on it off the shoot. We're seeing the times, 50.7 right out the bat for Eric Strawn. So, I mean, guys like Strawn, of course, are raring to go. Chris Butcher just, you know, taking provisional pole time with a 50.6. So you can see these guys that maybe didn't finish exactly where they wanted to. Of course, Butcher had a good result, but Strawn completely off the map. He's really hungry to get back at it here in this Q2. And now just a live update to the standings. Chris Butcher is now, actually Tim Hyman is now leading the championship by 27 points over Chris Butcher and Marius Golenbeck. Obviously, Butcher and Golenbeck are now tied on points. So you're seeing, you know, the effects of these races are completely putting this championship on a pendulum. Now Butcher's tied with Golenbeck. Jasper Tallberg now up to the 4th, passing Diogo Silva, who was 4th into this. Now he's fell back to 5th, and Florian Voita, through his result, like you pointed out, John, finishing 8th, is now jumped up to 6th position. So now Voita is trying to creep up into maybe even running inside the top 5, maybe even having a look into that podium finish when all things are said and done. But now back to qualifying. Eric Tveit sets the fastest time with that 50.4. Remember, John, we didn't see anyone pass that 50.5 mark besides Tveit. So Tveit's looking very strong pretty early here.
Yeah, he's done it once again. Of course, not as quick a lap as he did in the first quali, but we do see that quite often. where drivers, after having practiced quali trim, can go out there and set a good lap time, whereas in the second qualifying session, they've just come off 35 lap old tyres and race fuel, so you know, it's adjusting back to the setup. But Eric de Veit seems to be doing the job in qualifying at the moment, and he is sitting in first position. Emil Selberg, yeah, he did jump up to 6th there. That was a great lap from him. And also Kevin Siggy's done a good lap to be 4th, but de Veit, oh, he's going to hit someone into turn 1 there. That won't help too much, and he's sent one of the Positive Sim Racing cars wide. So that was a bit of a mistake there by de Veit, but I don't think it'll cause too much issues for him. Thomas Erzin has also done a stunning lap to jump up to 6th position. This is the man we didn't expect to see today, showing great commitment to make it after having to take his wife to hospital, I believe. So that's good for him, jumping up to 6th position, and not a man we expected to see in the top 10.
Yeah, very good for Erzin. I believe he lined up 30 or 29th or something in that first race. Obviously, his mind was elsewhere when he gets in that Q1 session. So it's great to see him get his start sorted and now jump up to 6th so far. So Core Racing and Thomas Erzin looking very strong in this Q session with about a little less than 5 minutes on the board. Gollenbeck in 8th position. So he's certainly going to look to improve that time of 50.8 for himself. Jasper Talberg holding 9th position with a 50.9. So these guys, these Spade Racing drivers, are certainly going to try to get themselves further up the grid. Tim Hyman sitting in 3rd position, as it were. So right now, Spade Racing, the task is on them to go quicker here with 4 minutes and 30 seconds left in this one.
And I think especially Gollenbeck, he can definitely go a lot quicker, as can Jesper Talberg in 9th. Although saying that, Jesper didn't seem to prove it in Quali 1 or Race 1. And it's a shame to be speaking negatively of a driver, because of course being 9th position in a league like this is absolutely incredible in the first place. But for a man of Talberg's caliber and the amount of dominant championships he's had, it must be disappointing for him to be only down in 9th position and struggling to make it into the top 5. Kevin Siggy is actually purple on this lap, as is Chris Butcher, the man you're on board with just now. But Chris is heading towards the line, so we follow him right now. Where's this time going to? Is it going to improve him? It does. That's a
wow!
50.466, which would have got in pole position in race 1 as well. And Kevin Siggy is the other man we need to keep an eye on here. Chris begins his other lap. Here comes Kevin Siggy now. He was still purple in sector 2. Will this put him onto the front row? And no, he doesn't improve. He's obviously mucked up the last sector a little bit there.
Yeah, he completely fell through on that 3rd sector there. Again, that exit out of turn 4, just catching some drivers out. Remember, this is a very bumpy track, and sometimes it's hard to really get the braking right going to these corners, because obviously with it being some hairpins here, you have to brake so hard, and the track tries to throw you around so much. Sometimes it's just hard to get the car planted going into these corners. So I'm pretty sure that's what's going on around that 4th corner in that 3rd sector. But Chris Butcher's completely got his head down. I love the intensity and the determination from Chris Butcher. I think it's kind of dawned on him through this winter break, this Christmas break, that he's got a chance at this championship. He can really fight against Hyman. Despite it being hard, he's got a chance to go after one of the toughest championship in TPS at the moment, in this VCC championship. So certainly Chris Butcher, I think, is starting to creep up and now push his skills. And quite frankly, I'm loving it. I think Chris Butcher is going to be a contender here down the stretch. It's going back in 10th position, and it goes to 2nd though. So 2nd for Gollenbeck, only the third 50.4 we've seen in Q session. So Gollenbeck seems to be on it now, John.
Yeah, and you were speaking to Butcher just before. I think a good measure of judgment to see how much he's improved in this series is, if you remember in the 1st and 2nd round, we couldn't say enough how similar him and Diogo Silva were in terms of pacing consistency, and that's what put them up in the championship. I remember, specifically remember seeing Butcher and Silva attached at every single race. And if you look at Silva here, he's struggling down in 8th. We just saw him plough into a wall, and that was our early championship leader. Whereas you look at Butcher and Eric de Veit, as he demonstrates, I think he must have been listening to me and wanted to demonstrate exactly what Diogo Silva did, because that's what Eric's just done. But yeah, Chris and Diogo were very similarly paced, and now look at Chris up there in 1st and Silva down in 8th position. And I probably shouldn't speak too soon, because all the positions have changed. That Gollenbeck's gone up to pole position on an identical time to Chris Butcher. He's beaten him by 1,000th of a second, Danny.
That's the worst. That's the worst for a guy who just got beat by that type of margin. Trust me, it's happened to me. I know exactly what Chris Butcher's probably going through right now. Now he's put in. Actually, the time going by in the game, it's actually tied at a 0:50.466. So I guess obviously the game is calculating to a further degree than what we can see on our timing boards. But regardless, it's pretty much the same lap, and Chris Butcher just loses out to Marius Gollenbeck, who is now your provisional pole sitter with about a minute and change to go in this quality session.
I don't see how it's possible to get to the same thousandths of a second. It shows you how much these guys are on the limit. It's not as if they can just, oh, I'll find a few tens here and a few tens here by going a bit quicker. It's not like that at all. You know, with the amount of effort these guys put in, the hundreds of laps of practice, and that's what it comes down to. It comes down to that much, and that shows you how much these guys are getting out of the cars. You physically can't get much more out of them. As Jurman jumps up to 13th for THR Green, so he'll be reasonably happy with that. We're now just looking through. Eric Strana is actually purple in Sector 1. He's coming up to the end of Sector 2 now, so let's see where the split puts him. And he has lost. He's only a 10th down. Tveit has done a stunning Sector 1. He's over a 10th up
Wow.
the Vollenbeek, but we also saw Strana purple, so let's not get ahead of ourselves here.
But remember, Tveit's very good through that third sector, so this could be legit, a legit pole time here for Eric Tveit. Boyd Bryson in 5th position, so Boyd, this is the type of result we've come to expect from Boyd, not the 29th from last race. Let's see what Boyd can do in this Q2, but Tveit, he loses all in that second sector, so not sure he's going to be able to pull about a 10th out of this final sector here to claim this pole time here, John. But we'll see what Tveit has as he crosses the stripe in that ice cold machine. No, can't do it. He holds 3rd position. That's pretty much. I'm not sure if he got across the line in time, John. If he's going to be able to complete his next lap or not.
Yeah, unfortunately I just missed that on the timer as well, so he might have another lap, but I don't think he will. So these now is the driver's last chance. This is Heinemann's final chance to get better than 4th position, and he does get better. He jumps up to 3rd, and yes, Tolberg finally gets a good lap in 3rd position. He'll be delighted with that. Also, Boyd Bryson up to 6th place, which he'll be happy with. But yeah, Tolberg finally manages to feature inside, the top 10 and actually get noticed in the qualifying session, which is good to see. And it also puts Heinemann back down. And the more cars in front of Heinemann, you have to say, with Heinemann's amazing speed, no one's quicker than him. And so you can quite safely say that it'll make the racing more exciting because Heinemann, the fastest guy, is not at the front of the grid. And also we're seeing Oscar's car smoking a little bit again there, so he's obviously, got a strategy there with the low radiator settings, which is quite clever by the Englishman, that he's only managed 12th in this session. And the timer has been 0 for quite a while now, so I believe there will be no real major changes in the standings. I'm trying to see who's still on track. Pet Glash is still on track. Pet Zold is still on track. Those guys.
Tveit looks like he's going to try to finish his lap. But to your point about Heinemann starting about 4th position, it looks like Tveit's going to blow his lap. But that's the end of the Q session. It's all wrapping up. No more times across the board. I mean, I'll let you take a look here at the grid here, John, before we get into warm-up.
So, Marius Gollenbeck takes pole position for Spade. He'll be looking for a stronger race 2 than he did in race 1 after finishing 4th. Chris Butcher is 2nd on the grid for THR. Yellow or orange, I really can't tell. They always seem to
no one
disagree with each other.
No
one knows.
With that.
Write in the comments what they should call it. Jesper Tolberg is starting in 3rd position ahead of Tim Heinemann. And Eric Tveit will be starting in 5th place, which is not quite his pole position of race 1, but definitely he'll be featuring at the very front of this one. Boyd Bryson is starting in 6th place ahead of Eric Strana, with Kevin Siggy in 8th. Diogo Silva is in 9th, and rounding out row 5 is Thomas Erzin in 10th place for Core Racing. Emil Selberg for Ice Cold is in 11th, with Oscar Hardwick in 12th. Pipo Rodriguez qualifies in 13th for GT Competizione ahead of Kenneth Jurman. Moving down through the grid now, Florian Voita in 15th for Optimum ahead of Lee Palmer, with Luca Pecklash in 17th and Hein Petzold in 18th, both for Core Racing. The Optimum driver Anders Nielsen will be starting in 19th, and Mate Orban, his teammate, in 20th, so a couple of Core cars and a couple of Optimum cars there. Looks like it's going to be a good inter-team battle between those guys. Sergio Jr. for Go Speed in 21st, and end of row 6 is Shell Stenbeck for Optimum as well. Miguel Cardoso will be starting for GT Competizione in 23rd place, with Ole Marius Muravold, Pinky starting in 24th for It Gets Better. Positive car of Santiago Niza, not quite emulating his teammates' performance here in 25th on the grid, with Fabio Asencao looking for a slightly cleaner second race, starting from 26th. Gary Lennon down there in 27th for this one, with David van der Venne for Aerostream in 28th. It's the first time we've really seen Aerostream pop up. They've not been very good this week. Thomas Matazowski is in 29th for THR, and Diogo Quaresma in 30th for GT Competizione. And having not set, he has set a qualifying lap, David Yunt in 31st with a 52.8. So obviously didn't get a single clean lap in. But that will round us off for the qualifying. Now we're going to have a quick look at the upcoming events in the Touring Pro Series. The next event will be the Virtual Mini Challenge, live from Taruma. That's round 5 of that championship. Andrew Waring, although not actually winning the race on track, after penalties, Adrian Campfield was demoted to 2nd place, and Waring given his first Touring Pro Series win. So unfortunately wasn't able to celebrate it at the time, but that's great for him, and also the first win for Aerostream. He'll be looking to repeat that success. Then on the Saturday, that's a week Saturday, live from Brasilia is the Virtual Supertech Series. And you can catch up with that at the same time as this broadcast, so that'll be around about 6 p.m. Or 6 GMT, I should say. Or it might start a little bit earlier. We have VTM coming up after that on the Wednesday, so that's a week Wednesday, and that will be coming live from the Oostenrijk, which is an absolutely stunning track, and expect some incredible racing there. But just before we go into the race, we're going to look at the updated standings, thanks to Ryan Callan, who's managed to update them for us between races. Tim Heinemann is first with 292 points ahead of Chris Butcher, who's now in second, level on points with our pole sitter Marius Gollenbeck. In fourth place is Jesper Tolberg and Diogo Silva in fifth. Florian Voigt is up to sixth place in the standings, and that's not what I expected to see, so consistency is paying off for him, and the German's improving with experience. Kenneth Uhrman is in seventh ahead of Boyd Bryson, who's slipped down to eighth. Eric Tveit and Eric Strana, the two ice-cold drivers who've both been quick, only 9th and 10th in the standings.
Yeah, and just I guess a quick update from server 2, unless of course you were about to go to commercial break that time.
We'll go for the update.
Just a quick update, just how the Q session broke down. Ross McGregor on pole, Jordi San Andres, hopefully I'm not killing that name too bad, is on second. Sheldon van der Linde is on third. Yoko Gorge on fourth. James Johnson on fifth. And that's just to give the viewers an update, because obviously Sheldon van der Linde, Yoko Gorge have been in Division 1 at some point. Maybe we have fans of those drivers just waiting for them to get back into Division 1. Obviously, Florian Strauss was also in Division 2 last round, but he is out. He is not with us here today, John, because I believe he had a real life race that you can update us on.
Well, we'll come to that in just a minute. We're going to have a very quick commercial break, but we'll be back for race 2 from Norisring.
GamePod, the ultimate race rig for those serious about sim racing, puts you in the driver's seat with all the controls at your fingertips. Be number 1 on the road, in the race, in the game. GamePod, the choice of champions.
So we are back here for live coverage of Race 2, Round 4 of the Virtual Carrera Cup 2014 from Norisring, and we're about to go, we're literally just lining up on the grid for the second race. And as Danny said just before we went to the advert break, he was speaking about Florian Strauss. Now Florian has won the German version of GT Academy. For those who are not familiar with that, it is basically a competition run by Nissan where they test drivers on a Gran Turismo game, and the fastest, however many that sign up, get put into a real-life challenge in a Silverstone circuit where the drivers are a certain number of drivers qualify, and they are reduced down to a final winner, and that of course is decided by famous racing drivers from the chosen country. And Florian managed to win the German version of GT Academy, which is why he is not racing here today. That's Florian Strauss, not Florian Voigt. Although Florian Voigt is actually in the Touring Pro Series now thanks to that. So because he met Florian Strauss and Florian dragged him over, so it's great to see that's again, it's another driver at the Touring Pro Series. But just to quickly cover what's important, Florian did his first proper race for the Nissan GT Academy team in the Dubai 24 Hours, which is of course a very famous endurance race, and the team miraculously managed to win their class. So massive congratulations from everybody at TPS, of course, to Florian Strauss and his teammates for winning their class in his first proper race. So it's great to see a driver, making his way up through Touring Pro Series into real life racing thanks to his sim racing ability and making the most of it. So we're going to jump back into the game now as we head to the end of the formation lap, and it's Marius Gollenbeck on the front from Chris Butcher, Jesper Tolberg and Tim Heinemann. And very quickly, Danny, who are you putting up for this win?
Again, listen, I'm on the Chris Butcher bandwagon today. Obviously, I've given Chris a hard time in the media recently because of our TPS rankings podcast and whatnot. And I've got a lot of flack over that, but I'm on the Chris Butcher train today. I'm going Butcher for the race win, John. I picked him in the first race. It didn't work out, but I think Butcher is going to get one of these things done here today.
Now, I said Heinemann would win in the 4 races that he did win, and then I decided to be ambitious in the first race, thinking I'd be smart and going for Gollenbeck, and it completely didn't work. So I'm going to resort back to my roots and say Heinemann from 4th place is going to win for me. And as the cars line up at the back of the grid, we see Oscar Hardwick pulling in there in the pink car. and we just wait for the back of the grid. It took a lot longer than I expected in the first race, and I thought I saw the red lights come on, but it was actually a red reflection from another set, so I'll learn from my mistake and hopefully not make the same one twice. And there you can see the back of the grid are pulling up. There is a driver starting from the pit lane as well, but that gantry above the track is where you will see the red lights and where we will begin. Race 2 from Norisring. It might have been Palmer starting from the pit lane, I'm not quite sure, but I'm sure we'll find out soon enough. We are underway here. I think it was Emil Selberg it was, but Gollenbeck leads ahead of Chris Butcher with Jesper Tolberg in third and Heinemann fourth, heading into turn 1. So it's 3 Spade cars versus a THR car. How is it going to pan out as they head through the hairpin? There's big contact and Butcher's going to take the lead. The 3 Spade cars slot into second, third and fourth. It's Gollenbeck, Heinemann and Tolberg in that order. Eric Tveit in fifth and Kevin Siggy in sixth. Just seeing if there's any incidents further back. It doesn't look like it in the standings, but Butcher leads. A great start from him. Also, Eric Tveit has managed to get past Jesper Tolberg up to fourth place, and it looked like a clean start at the front. Although saying that, there was a bit of bumping into turn 1, which is to be expected with so many cars in such a small space. And it looks like another. Is that Tveit trying to go around the outside there of Tim Heinemann? That's not a move that you would expect to see. And he hasn't managed to make it stick and almost comes under pressure from Jesper Tolberg. So it's Butcher from Gollenbeck, Heinemann, Tveit and Tolberg.
Yeah, now, I was going to make this point before the race started. That was huge for Butcher to get in front of both of those Spade Racing drivers. Now he's got... Heinemann now has to go through Gollenbeck to get to Butcher, and Butcher proved that he's faster than Gollenbeck or under race conditions. So if Butcher can just get out that toe, he's got a chance now to win this race. But if Gollenbeck can now get to Butcher, hold him up. Oh no!
Butcher's in the wall. He's taking out Tveit, and there's going to be a mayhem. Oh my goodness! This is a disaster.
Terrible crash here in the S's here. We've got about 3-4 cars pulled into this thing. It looks like Tveit. Someone might even lost a wheel through there. I mean, that has to take out the 2 teams to oppose Spade and Ice Cold Racing and THR, taking on the same incident, pretty much locking this thing out. Spade, Spade, and Spade all on podium. Just a terrible incident right there. I'm pretty sure Tveit and Butcher are going to be absolutely gutted. And yeah, just was there contact?
Can we, if we take another quick look, if we go back, let's see if there was contact. I believe Butcher ran really wide. And was there contact?
There was contact. There's a dent, actually.
I think there was. There was.
There's a dent. You saw the dent. You saw the dent there on Gollenbeck's car as he drives by. There was slight contact there. And I think you're right, John. Chris goes a little wide, gets his car slightly sideways, and then Gollenbeck just nudges into him to send him around. Just bad contact in a bad spot. I mean, not massive contact, nothing dirty going on. That's just, I think, a racing incident. It's just very unfortunate. It had to end that way for Chris Butcher, who's limping back with, I think he's missed the wheel on that THR machine, if I'm not mistaken. He's just trying to do whatever he can to score points, realizing he's in the championship hunt. Absolutely gutting. But as you're seeing so many cars in the pit in the pit lanes getting massive, doing massive damage control, as it were. Just a very unfortunate situation there, John.
And once again, Tveit's ended up with a Panamera-like Porsche, and that's not for the first time this season we've seen that. But he's gonna, so Butcher couldn't actually get to his pit stall, just to add insult to injury, because Tveit's car was in the way. But to me, what it looked like, it was a mixture. Butcher made the mistake and ran wide, but the loss of speed there. Okay, Butcher made a mistake, but then Heinemann couldn't really back out of it. He was too close to him, and he hit the back of him. I wouldn't say that's anything dirty, although saying that, I'm not sure Chris will agree with it at this current moment. Of course, it's caused him to hit the wall.
Furious,
But if he looks on replay, I'm sure he'll realise that there wasn't too much that Heinemann could have done there. So speaking of Heinemann, it's Heinemann from Gollenbeck from Tolberg. We're not going to see the incredible fight through the field we thought we would saw from Heinemann. He's been handed it on a plate. But Gollenbeck's so far looking pretty racy. He locked up a little bit there, and he's going to lose a few tenths of a second on exit, but looking very good at the moment, as is Tolberg in third.
I'm suspecting the damage Gollenbeck took in that incident is mostly cosmetic, but at the same time, you're already dealing with Tim Heinemann, who's just a man on fire at this point. If there's just a little something wrong with your car, that can really frustrate you and demoralize you if you're going against someone that's as good as Heinemann has been in these flat 6 cars. So I've got to think that Heinemann's got this thing pretty much signed, sealed, and delivered at this point. But even I'm thinking there might be even a little damage on Heinemann's car. Maybe maybe just cosmetic there on that front bumper. But regardless, Gollenbeck has a lot. He's got to go. Yeah, you are seeing that front bumper that caved in for Hyman. So maybe these cars are then equal, both Golombek and Hyman. So maybe we'll see a very square fight for the win. And remember, Jasper Tallberg is there in third position with Kevin Siggy, Kevin Siggy just manages to keep his nose clean, his head out of trouble, and he's getting these really good running positions. So positive sim racing there in 7th position, looking very good for them.
And Shellbeck is retired down in 22nd place. That's a real shame for him. But he had a good race once, so I'm sure he won't be too disappointed. But, I mean, yeah, so I would like to apologise when I said Heinemann hit. I meant Golombek that actually hit Chris Butcher. So apologies for that. But they both seem to have a little bit of front-end damage. But it's Heinemann who continues to lead. I don't think the damage will affect his pace too much. And even if it does, he's got a lot of time over his rivals. Golombek's not been as quick in the first race. And there you see Heinemann obviously not being affected. He's doing a 50.5. And he will check out into the distance, Sebastian Vettel style. So Golombek, he's still right there saying that Golombek is going out on board with the battle between Rodriguez and Palmer. It looks like Palmer looking down the inside of GT Competizione driver. People's force wide, and Palmer's going to get a good exit. Let's see. Looks like Lee's on the outside, going into the right-hand chicane. So this is kind of a repeat of what we saw with Butcher and Golombek, but with people and Lee Palmer. Let's not result in a crash, guys. Managed to keep it out the wall, just about out the wall there, heading out of turn 3. But it's Rodriguez who gains the position on Lee Palmer, and now Boyd Bryson's in on the action. He's going to be frustrated after race 1, lost a lot of championship position. He went from 6th to 9th, I believe, just by not getting the best of results. And he's now looking for revenge. Palmer gets very sideways out of turn 5 as they head down the home stretch. And now Bryson's going to have a look on the inside to Palmer into the first turn, I would suspect. I'm amazed Palmer's managed to maintain so much straight line speed after being sideways. But he's going to defend to the inside, is he? Bryson is going to have a lunge. That's a great move, he can make it stick, but surely he's going to run a bit wide. He does, and Palmer, does get the undercut. So fair dues to Bryson, he went for the move, managed to keep it clean enough, but Palmer got the undercut and managed to get the position back.
Yeah, and remember Palmer, he started 8th lap, 12 down, I think finished around 14th or so. This time he qualifies around 14th, and now he's up to 8th, so Lee Palmer just up and down. Hopefully he can actually hold this form here, continue to stay inside the top 10 and get a good result here today. But just to update, at the back, Stenbeck is out, Cordosa out, Wojta gone, Yerman out, and Nilsson also out as well. Chris Butcher was out for an absurdly long pit stop. I mean, he fell 4 laps down just sitting in the pit. I think there was even minutes he was sitting in a stall just trying to get the THR machine as fit as it can be. Maybe even took 2 pit stops because it's absurdly that he lost as much time as he did. But now he's 4 laps down, just carrying on in 27th position, absolutely gutting for the THR.
Yeah, and as we were on board there with Silva, Boyd Bryson seemed to slow down quite dramatically, and for a second I thought he had a big problem, but then continued on. So we either let Diogo Silva by or missed a gear or something, but a bit of a peculiar one there. Bryson dropping down to 10th and Silva up to 9th. But I was saying Heinemann is going to check out. Not so fast. Looking at Marius Golombek, he's only 0.4 seconds behind him, and there is the gap, you can see. And that's clearly not a big gap. Golombek's still going to be in the slipstream, and maybe this race isn't as over as we thought it was.
It's going to be interesting because this is kind of how it worked out at Road Atlanta. Hyman would lead to begin with, but then Golombek made a tremendous surge through the second half of race 2 to even overtake Hyman before losing the lead on the final lap back to his teammate. But certainly Golombek knows how to follow Hyman around in these flat 6 cars, and certainly can have a look at him during the latter half of this race. But you're seeing Tallberg in behind just getting completely dropped off by his 2 teammates. Now he's 3 seconds off Hyman in the lead, so certainly it seems like Tallberg doesn't quite have the pace like it's been the trend all season of his teammates. So certainly now he's got to watch out for Kevin Siggy and Eric Strana, who are going to maybe range up behind him as this race continues.
Yeah, of course Tallberg made the jump from THR to Spade Racing to build a team around him, and at the moment it's his teammates that are doing the job and not Tallberg. Saying that, Tallberg's doing a great job as a backup driver in 3rd place, but he's not in the championship fight, and you can't really blame him. He does so many series in the Touring Pro Series. He's going to have championships where he struggles or isn't quite as competitive, and that's just natural. It would be ridiculously unnatural if he managed to win absolutely everything, so I shouldn't be too surprised to see him struggling a little bit in at least one of the series. He is of course leading the VTM Championship, but holding right now a Spade 1, 2, 3. Heinemann looking great, Golombek not looking bad at all, but as we say that, he is dropping a couple of tenths over the last lap or 2, and Heinemann's just got so much pace. It looks at the moment like it's going to be 6 from 6. Kevin Siggy having a great run in 4th, and Strana staying out of trouble for 5th, Hardwick 6th, Pipo Rodriguez in 7th, and Diogo Silva now up to 8th, having just passed Lee Palmer, and Boyd Bryson rounds out the top 10.
Now, we're seeing Rodriguez and Silva 7th and 8th. Now, this is what you want to see at this GT Competizione team. Obviously, they struggled in that first race, finishing, 15th and 21st. Now we're seeing Silva. Ooh, Lee Palmer doesn't want to give up anything to these GT, or rather, yeah, it looks like Silva has to go back around Palmer for that 8th position, but Palmer's not giving it up easy to the GT Competizione guys. But I think GT Competizione realized what type of opportunities on the table for them. They don't have a single core racing car in front of them. Obviously, THR is absolutely dead in this race. I think it's on the table here for GT Competizione to now take 2nd in the team's championship, and then I'm not sure they'll be able to have a look at Spade Racing, but so far, I think GT Competizione is looking like they can beat THR and core racing in this championship.
One thing that I found very intriguing about this series is, we look at the teams and you've got THR at the front, you've got THR Spade, Ice Cold, you have to say Core with Chris Hack, also GT Competizione with Diogo Silva, all of which have drivers right up at the front of the grid. Then you look to the midfield, you have Ice Cold, you have Lee Palmer, you have THR of Kenneth Ehrman and David Yunt, you have GT Competizione cars, you have Core cars, you have Optimum cars of Orban,
Smile Power's in there with
There's so many, there's such a strong mixture.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is the most varied team championship we've seen in the TPS for some time, because, I mean, honestly, GT Competizione, even at the front, core racing, like you said, the teams in the midfield, Optimum, Smile Power, the other THR cars, the other versions of the core racing.
Ghost Speed as well with
Ghost
Sergio Jr.
Positive Sim Racing's been up there. I mean, it's just so varied at the front, so it's very good to see, very refreshing to see within the TPS landscape. So I hope we see more of this moving forward within the series in TPS. And here we're seeing, so it looks like he's changing tires on that machine, if I'm not mistaken here, John. I mean, we saw Strana do this in Ice Cold as well. I'm not sure what exactly, maybe he's fixing damage and taking tires, I don't quite know. But Selberg in the pits was running from, I think, maybe around 15th, 16th position, so not really. And I've sent my pit lane reporters trying to figure out what the heck is going on. And these guys can't seem to get inside the Ice Cold camp to see what the heck they're thinking going on down there. So, sir, I definitely want to get one of those guys in the post race and see what the heck is the thing with these pit stops mid-race.
I mean, I would assume it would be damage, but if Strana did the same in race 1, which I remember him doing, it's a peculiar one, and if it wasn't damage, I'd be very surprised. Maybe Selberg, I should say, hit the wall on the lap before we just missed it, is what I'd suspect, but I'm not sure. I'm sure you'll be able to chase up on that one after, as you said. But looking at the lead of the race, we have Heinemann now building up the gap from Marius Gollenbeck. It's 1.1 second, and Jesper Tauber is a further 3.8 off the back of Gollenbeck, so he's definitely not going to be in the fight for the top 2. It looks like Kevin Siggy is right in the back of Tauber. He's only 8/10 behind him, and the Positive Sim Racing car is chasing down the most decorated driver in Touring Pro Series history. And if you told Siggy he'd be doing that in this race, I'm sure, let alone the fact that he beat Tauberg in race 1, I'm sure you would take that with 2 hands. Eric Strana running in 5th place, and Oscar Hardwick even stronger by a position in 6th in this one. Pipo Rodriguez having a better run, as is Diogo Silva in 8th. So GT Competizione, a tough round for them, but damage limitation in race 2.
Siggy, I've been very impressed with him. He's beating Strana consistently in these races. He's beating Oscar Hardwick. He's beating Pipo Rodriguez Silva. Obviously, Silva led the championship at some point. So the performance we've seen from Siggy has been tremendous in that Positive Sim Racing car. And now, like you said, John, he's going to fight for this podium. He looks quicker than Jesper Tauberg, and he's got still half the race to work with to get this move done. So Siggy, we're looking for a potential podium, the first ever for Positive Sim Racing inside the TPS. This would be huge for them. These guys put in a tremendous effort in this sim racing operation. So you can bet these guys on the edge of their seat, just rooting Siggy on to get this job done against Jesper Tauberg. There's no better driver to do this against than Mr. Tauberg. Like you said, John, the most decorated and most successful driver TPS has ever seen. So to get that podium against Jesper Tauberg, this would be a big deal here with half the race left to go on the board. So Siggy, hopefully he can keep his head down and get back to it.
Another man who's been impressive in this race, I have to say, as opposed to race 1, was Ole Mars Muravold. Now, he is in 12th position for It Gets Better, I believe that's what the team's called, and he's running in that bright pink car in 12th place, a lot stronger than he was in race 1. He was outside of the top 16. And speaking of 16, we look at if you go back to 16th position there, we see a big battle there between Fabio Asencal and Orban, I believe, for that. Yes, it is Matej Orban. So Orban's obviously had issues, and he's got damage to the front bumper, but these guys have been swapping positions. I was just noticing the screen flashing there. So having a great battle for 16th. Looking at the retirements, we have Chris Butcher 5 laps down, as near as makes no difference out of the race. Emil Selberg is in 26th, and it says engine, so maybe, I believe it was damaged, the reason he came into the pits, because I doubt he would come in and then happen to blow his engine.
Well,
otherwise.
The ice cold engineer, Tom Milley, actually messaged me. He's telling me it was a puncture. So he was just going in, I think, trying to change the tires. That engine malfunction must have happened later after he finished his pit stop, because according to Ely, he just punctured his tire, and that's what it was. And I guess that's exactly what also happened to Strana in race 1. He just made a puncture and just had to come in to change the fresh rubber.
I mean, maybe Selberg actually went for a rev from the exit of the pit lane, because it's definitely possible to do off start lines. So coming out the pits in a high adrenaline situation, that's a real possibility of why he's blown his engine there. As Orban looks to the inside and doesn't make it, no stick there on Sergio Jr. Or I'm sorry, I believe it's Asencal. But yeah, to continue the retirements, you have Selberg in 26th, Kjell Stenbeck in 27th, Miguel Cardoso out with engine failure in 28th for GT Competizione. Florian Vojta, unfortunately, finishing in 29th out of this race. I think he got pushed into the Chris Butcher incident, quite literally kind of squeezed into the car of Chris Butcher, which was stationary, and that's what's caused him down in 29th. Kenneth Uhrman, the other man who was involved in that, in 30th, and Anders Nielsen, our first DNF, in 31st, I should say. And just to keep an eye on the leaders, let's see if there's any change. Heinemann pulling away now convincingly from Golombek, and well on his way for 6 from 6, which is something I'm not really too surprised about. He has been incredible this season. There's, run out of words to describe how good he's been. Golombek from Tolberg in 3rd, Siggy still hanging in there, 1.2 seconds back and 4th, with Strana a further 1.2 seconds back in 5th, so those guys are running in quite a neat formation there in 3rd, 4th and 5th. The Spade, forgetting the name of the Positive Sim Racing, there we go, and Ice Cold, those 3 guys running in tandem and consistent distances between them, with Oscar Hardwick in 6th, Pipo Rodriguez 7th, Silva in 8th, Lee Palmer 9th, Boyd Bryson 10th, but action on track does seem to have calmed down a bit, Danny.
It seems like a battle is between Lee Palmer and Boyd Bryson. Remember, Boyd, I believe he qualified 6th or 7th around that area, is now trying to catch back up to Lee Palmer. Remember, Palmer, he's come up from about 14th on the grid, got up to 8th at one point before Silva did him in. Now he's got Boyd Bryson, who looks to be the faster car, looks to have a healthier car. That ice cold machine of Lee Palmer seems a bit damaged there. So I think Boyd Bryson, it's only a matter of time for a core racing, so going to get this done. He's side by side down the front stretch. Let's see, he's actually got to pull back in behind Lee Palmer, perhaps get into that toe, because there's the gap. Not sure if he's going to be able to get this done into the first corner, but Lee Palmer has done very well to hold on to the ice cold machine despite the damage as Boyd Bryson goes for it up the inside. I think that's signed, sealed, and delivered, and I believe Boyd Bryson is going to be in the ninth place here, John.
Yeah, and in the ancient words of famous philosopher Keith Barrick, and no, it doesn't matter because Lee Palmer has cancelled the reservation and he's going to spin on the exit and can't.
Oh no,
John,
and
Boyd Bryson holds on.
You're pulling out the complete Keith Barrick playbook. You're talking about reservations and bookings, man. That's like blasphemy. I hope you realize that, man.
Yeah, next thing we know, it'll be the heartbreak hairpin. But anyway, we digress. It's Bryson in 9th, Lee Palmer in 10th, and I was going to say Ice Cold have been really in the wars today. But just before we go on to that, it's Palmer to the outside. It's going to be the inside for the right-hand flick, but the outside for the more important turn 1 hairpin, which is now called GamePod hairpin with our beautiful sponsorship, as you can see. Bryson slides down the inside, makes the move stick on Lee Palmer, gets the power down, and this lap he has managed to get his car in front. Let's see if Lee can come back into turn 2 and 3, which they head into now. Bryson holds an inside line. Lee's looking, he's so quick into that corner every single time. Didn't manage to make it happen this time. But Ice Cold really have been in the wars. If you look at this race, a whole Eric Fight in his Porsche without a rear wing, running along, trying to mix it up with these guys. You've got Strana having pitted in the last race. We've had Selberg in the pits and then blow his engine. And we've got Lee with a missing front bumper. So I hope Ice Cold have got enough spare parts with them.
Yeah, they've had a very rough go at it. I think the car is actually tremendously quick. obviously Tom was talking about how he's, you know, developed that setup, but again, they just haven't been able to really capitalize. Yes, Tveit got the great result, the second in race 1, but so far it's been kind of out there. So now we're picking up this battle between Sergio Jr. Going against David Young. These guys have actually gone back and forth over the past few laps. So David Young originally made a slight, Jr. made a slight mistake that allowed Young to get up to him, and now these guys are fierce, locked into a battle as Jr. He's going to have it around into the S's here.
They have a look at the front two, sorry. Heinemann is now only 0.6 of a second, 0.4 of a second ahead of Golombek, and I just noticed that as those guys were heading into the chicane. Heinemann's obviously made a mistake. Let's see if he has damage. I don't think he has damage, so maybe just a slight half spin or an error of judgment, maybe missed a braking zone. But Heinemann is now under serious pressure from Marius Golombek. Golombek's looking to the inside now. Maybe Heinemann does have damage, because look how much Golombek's closed in on him. This is incredible stuff here. We go on board with Marius Golombek. There's still 11 laps to go, so a lot of time for the race to happen. But obviously something's happened to Heinemann here, because he seemed to be struggling in that lap. Even this lap he's struggling.
There was some mistake.
Oh no!
Who is that? Yerman!
No, it's not Yerman. He's out of the race. It's Yerman's teammate in the other THR Green. I'm not sure who that was. But that was almost very controversial there for the leaders. And just managed to avoid it.
It was Thomas Matazowski having a bit of a sideways moment outside of turn 4. Almost completely decided to race on that one. But about Heinemann, yeah, he ran a 52.9 a few laps ago, so I'm pretty sure he just ran into a mistake. Let me see what he did that time across the stripe. 51.6. Now that's obviously because he had pretty much almost had a heart attack probably looking at Matazowski exiting that corner. So I'm pretty sure he made a mistake. That car seems to be okay, but regardless, Golombek is certainly now in play with about 10 laps to go here.
Yes, and if Heinemann continues his pace he had earlier on, I still think he'll be fine. But that'll give Golombek new hope into thinking he maybe can nick this race. He must be very knackered by now, having spent 4 hours shouting at 2 other sim races before coming on here, and now driving his heart out to win. So he wants some reward for all his hard work. He's in the slipstream of Heinemann in front, but he's way too far back to make a move into turn 1, and he just needs to make sure he doesn't let that gap go again. Maybe Heinemann might make another mistake, and that's when Golombek has to pounce. But saying that, out of the 2 drivers this year, it's been Golombek who's been making the mistakes, and Heinemann who's been planting in the first place performances. So it's not just down to Golombek being fast. It's down to Heinemann. Will he make mistakes or will he hold on? And look at this battle here. We're on board with the back of Jesper Tolberg, who will not be happy with the sight in his rearview mirror. It's Kevin Siggy, the charging positive sim racing car, looking for the team and his own first podium in the Touring Pro Series. It'd be a great result if they could get it. He's hard-braking. Of course, Tolberg, a man who's relatively familiar, we must say, with the TPS podium. But I'm sure he'd take another one much more than he'd take a 4th place. Kevin Siggy pushing incredibly hard as we see a change of position also in the... Actually, has something happened to Eric Strand because he lost a lot of time on that lap.
He just got sideways exiting turn 4. But I've been following this Siggy versus Tolberg battle for a few laps now, and I was actually updated a while ago that Siggy's engine is actually smoking. So, as you're seeing actually on camera, the sideways moment from Estrada just completely lost the back end of that ice cold machine. But regardless, he's now...
Siggy's past Tolberg.
Yeah, there it is. Siggy is too. But like I was saying, Siggy's car is having a little bit of engine wear. I'm being told. His car was smoking at times. It seems to have gone away to some degree now. But there it is again. Maybe you guys can see it here on the broadcast. Yeah, you're seeing it a little bit. The smoke trailing out that car. That actually developed.
Big crash right behind him.
Who is that?
I think it was lap markers. No, it was Oscar Hardwick involved as well, because Oscar just got into the top 5, and then we saw a car smash into the wall on the inside of turn 5, and I think Oscar must have got involved in that. I'm not sure who that was. It might have been Thomas Erzin, actually.
Yeah,
it was. And a GT Competizione car as well. Look at this. He's obviously had a steering failure or something.
Oh wow, that's very heartbreaking. Erzin was doing very well to battle back in this race and to fight hard, despite being in odd circumstances, taking his wife to the hospital before the race even started. So it's very unfortunate that happens to Thomas Erzin. He's now, of course, out the race. Diego Quaresma was the GT Competizione driver, caught out by that. He is now also retired from the race. But Siggy, like I said, this car is not looking too healthy. I was updated about 10 laps ago that his car started to smoke. It is still smoking. I mean, Siggy, he has some issues to deal with. He might have to rein in the revs of that flat 6 positive sim racing machine, because he definitely doesn't want to get an engine failure. It can happen with these cars. That, of course, happens when you downshift too soon in these cars and you just max the revs too much. So Thalberg can now maybe take his time, because obviously Thalberg is seeing that smoke trailing out of Siggy's car. He knows that Siggy has to kind of rein that machine in a little bit. So it's going to be very interesting to see if Siggy actually hold that position for the duration of this lap, this event, about 6 laps remaining, as now we're picking up with trying to hamper Hardwick to get that position back.
Maybe it's a tactical move from Siggy. He knows his car's on fire, so he wants to get ahead of the ice pack so he can melt him and see if that'll help his position. But I think what Siggy has to do is he has to watch his revs, be careful with the changing of gears to let the engine temperatures cool down a little bit. It might be water temperature that's causing it. Obviously using a pretty small radiator, which is similar to what we were saying about Oscar Hardwick in qualifying. Siggy's also obviously gone for the mid-range radiator, so not as small as Oscar's, but it only last 2 laps, but obviously having some issues here, and he just needs to be careful with the revs, and he should be able to bring it home. That being said, it's still possible for the engine to blow, so he will not want to lose his podium in circumstances like that. But it's Heinemann who leads, only 0.7 ahead of Golombek, so as every time we seem to think that he'll check out, Golombek manages to just hold on in there, and a bit of debris flies across the track heading into turn 5, but everyone seems to be around safely, and Heinemann's still on course.
Now, what's going on here? I mean, Heinemann is hitting those 50.5 laps, but then every now and then he's slipping to the 50.1s. I mean, the 51s. I mean, a lap before he was at 51.1, and that's allowing Golombek, who's just slamming home 50.6s constantly, to kind of creep into Heinemann. But what happens, he gets close, and then Heinemann gets back to that 50.5 form, which we just saw in the last lap. He's back at a 50.5, and that's allowing him to keep this gap. So unless he strings mistakes together, I still don't think Golombek has the pace quite to get to his teammate. He's only got about 4 laps to get this done. So if this doesn't happen now, if Heinemann doesn't make a mistake, or Golombek doesn't find just a little bit more pace, Heinemann's simply going to win this race, because it just seems like he's just consistently quicker than his teammate.
And kudos to Chris Butcher there. If you notice, he was actually the back marker, but it's hard to recognise if you look at the front of that Porsche. It's more of a, I'm not quite sure, it doesn't really look like a car anymore with the missing front bonnet, but kudos to him for actually letting Golombek pass there, because, you know, if he was still holding a grudge or anger after the earlier incident, he would have maybe held him up a little bit more. So it's good to see he just let him straight past, let them get on with their own race.
That's how you be a proper back marker. But Butcher actually stayed in the pits 4 minutes just so he can get all his body work repaired. So that was actually the front bonnet that you normally see on that car. So I mean, that's why he was in the pits to drop something like 4. Now he's 5 laps down. So just a quick update on exactly what was going on with Butcher there. But Heinemann continues to hold that 6/10 gap to Heinemann. As you're seeing, actually he got the front part of that, the actual bumper, but not like you're saying, John. I guess the bonnet never got replaced there. On my screen, I'm seeing something a little bit differently. But regardless, that THR machine continues to carry on in bad condition, nonetheless.
Yeah, Heinemann obviously picking up the pace. He maybe just taking it easy, doesn't want to ruin his tyres or run out of fuel or make a big mistake that he doesn't need to do, which is possibly why he's dropping off time. Also, the back markers on this track, of course, being barriers either side of the road, it's difficult for them to get out the way sometimes. So that could have been what's holding up Heinemann as well. You now watch Siggy, Kevin Siggy, who was just ahead of Thalberg. We now cut back to Eric Strana, who's been in a very good battle with Oscar Hardwick, and Kiko Rodriguez, Diogo Silva are closing in as well for GT Competizione. But Hardwick and Eric have been swapping places quite a few times over the last few laps. They've both had slight issues in this race. Eric had a half spin earlier. Oscar almost got involved in the Thomas Erzin incident, which of course was Erzin's second retirement in 2 races, which, considering his circumstances, is very, very unfortunate. And Miravold running wide as well there.
Yeah, and just we continue to ride down to the field. This is Thomas Mazzazzi. Remember, he had that spin in front of the leaders a few laps ago that caused Heinemann, I'm pretty sure, to have a heart attack to some degree, but he carries on. Santiago Nazar, the second positive sim racing car, with Luca Peklash continuing to make his debut in Division 1 there in 22nd position, and Chris Butcher rounding out your field in 23rd, about 5 laps down. So back at the front, it seems like Heinemann has got this thing pretty much knitted at this point. The big battle is going to be Siggy versus Thalberg for that final podium position, because Heimann's, though he's about, we'll give him his fair due as he's about to cross the track for the second to final time. We're on the penultimate lap now. We're about to start lap 35 to round off this race. I mean, John, how good has this guy been? I mean, this is what it is now. 6th race victory in a row. Just absolutely unstoppable as a speed racing driver.
Well, let's not put a curse on him just yet, but he just got another 50.6. So that just kind of demonstrates. I mean, if you look at 50.6, that's enough to put you right up there in qualifying. He's doing that consistently after 35 laps of hard racing on the same set of tyres. You know, starting on race fuel and constantly adjusting to the surroundings and the situation of his car. So he's just been absolutely sensational. He's now, the thing is, this last lap's not going to last very long. So we're already at the final 5th and final corner, or the final proper corner. Heading into now, this is called turn 6, it's basically just a flat out kink, but it is going to be Tim Heinemann who's going to cross the line, pick up his 6th victory in 6 races. Long may it continue, doing it like Sebastian Vettel. Heinemann wins the race for Spade ahead of his teammate Marius Gollenbeck, who picks up 2nd. Well deserved, but just did not have the ultimate pace to beat Tim Heinemann, but who does at the moment? He's pretty unstoppable. Kevin Siggy does pick up the 3rd position and does pick up the podium for himself and Positive Sim Racing. Massive congratulations to those guys for all the work they put in. Jesper Tolberg picks up a very credible 4th position ahead of Eric Strana. Oscar Hardwick picks up another top 7 position, this time one better in 6th. Pipo Rodriguez and Diogo Silva for GT Competizione pick up 7th and 8th, with Boyd Bryson in 9th for Core Racing. Lee Palmer gets his top 10 for Ice Cold. Heinz Petzold finishes 11th ahead of David Yunt. Gary Lennon goes from 25th on the grid to 13th, so he'll be happy with that. Sergio Jr. for Ghost Speed in 14th, maybe slightly under par round considering how well he's done this season. Mathieu Orban in 15th for Optimum. We're just waiting for the rest of the finishers, and there we go. So there was only 15 cars on the lead lap in the end. Miravold did manage, I believe, 53.6 seconds behind in 16th. Fabio Asenkow in 17th with Matusowski in 18th. Eric Tveit finishes 1 lap down in 19th with a very, very battered ice cold car. It seems like each round, one of the races in each round, he's having problems. Davy van der Venne picks up 20th ahead of Santiago Niza in 21st, the teammate, of course, of Kevin Siggy. Luca Pecklage picks up 22nd, and massive well done to Chris Butcher. He didn't just rage quit, he was 5 laps down, he kept on going, he endured the 34 laps of just running around, letting guys pass, and managing to pick up hopefully some points. I'm not sure how the point system quite works, but that's 23rd position in the end. So just before we go to the interviews, why don't we have a final look at the next up and coming events in the Touring Pro Series. Coming up next Tuesday is the Virtual Mini Challenge, round 5 from Taruma, live from 8 GMT, or 10 past 8 I should say, so tune in for that on next Tuesday. Then you have the VSS, the Virtual Supertech Series from Brasilia, in a week's time, at the same time as this broadcast is on here tonight, which is of course 6 GMT, and the Virtual Touring Masters Season 5 returns to the Oostenrijkring. Stunning scenery, stunning track, stunning race upcoming for that one. Tune in on a week Wednesday, and of course in 2 weeks time tune in for the next round of the Virtual Carrera Cup. That'll be round 5, and it will be coming to you from Thruxton, and that will be an absolute stonker of a race. But speaking of stonking races, this has been a brilliant event at Norisring, and just before we go to interviews, we are going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be back in a few minutes with drivers' reactions of round 4 of the Virtual Carrera Cup from Norisring.
GamePod, the ultimate race rig for those serious about sim racing, puts you in the driver's seat with all the controls at your fingertips. Be number 1 on the road, in the race, in the game. GamePod, the choice of champions.
InsideSimRacing.tv, the fastest show on the internet. Sim racing news and reviews since 2007, with new shows every week.
So for the final time, we are back here at round 4 of the Virtual Carrera Cup. And just before we take away the interviews, we're going to tell you how to get involved in the Touring Pro Series. Head over to facebook.com/TouringProSeries for all the latest updates and information. Also go to twitter.com/touring_pro, as you can see on your screen there, for latest updates and news as well, so follow them on Twitter. And for all previous broadcasts and highlights videos, head to youtube.com/TouringProSeries, where you can catch up on an archive of thousands and thousands of hours of broadcasting. And I recommend watching every single one because you will love it. So we're now going to speak to some of the drivers, and lovely to see we have Tim Heinemann, our double race winner, now 6 in a row in the booth. So Danny, take it away.
Tim, yeah, like John was saying, 6 races in a row, 2 from 2 today. Really, how's it feel, man? It seems like it's your series and everyone else is just driving around. So, I mean, talk us through exactly, the struggles. Obviously, you couldn't get pole positions today, but so you had to fight through the field, both in race 1 and race 2. How did that go for you?
Hey, yeah, in quali I don't get the lap together, but yeah, in race I had 2 good starts and then win both races ahead of Marius and ahead of Eric.
So let's talk about that fight with Tveit in the first race. Obviously, he seemed to be the other driver on par with you in that first race. I mean, what was the strategy? Was it to just play the long game against Tveit, wait for maybe his tires to run out? I mean, kind of what's your mentality going into that?
Yeah, I just try to be ahead of him, and he had a good pace. I can't get away from him, but then with the lapping guys, I was, I think, 3 or 4 seconds ahead of him, and then won the first race.
And the final question I want to ask you is just about your teammate, Marius Gullenbeck, because you guys have obviously been at the front more often than not in these races. So, I mean, really, what's the strategy with fighting against your teammate? Are you guys, I mean, you guys seem to go at one another pretty heavily, but at the same time, you guys never make contact or that sort of thing. So, kind of, I just, are you guys just full on go for it, I suppose, or is there any type of team wars that ever factor into that sort of thing?
I think we try to fight, but try not to contact or try not to push the other one out. And it makes really fun with Marius or Jesper or Sasha to fight.
Well, regardless, well done, Tim. Obviously, 6 from 6 over the last 3 rounds, so very well done to you. And obviously, good luck moving forward in the championship. Now, John, I know you're with our next interviewee.
Yeah, so I'm going to speak to Marius Gullenbeck, the man who finished second in the race 2 and almost took the fight to Tim, but wasn't quite quick enough in the end. So, first of all, Marius, let's cover race 1, because you seem to have a very exciting race with Chris, but didn't really have the ultimate pace there.
Yeah, well, first of all, I need to apologize to Chris for race 2, because, there's certain situations that, scraping paint or anything is certainly a legit move in the series, especially since it's a trophy. But that was just totally my fault. I was right behind him, and he got sideways on the entry, and I hit the bump on the entry, tried to brake, and just tried to get off the back of him. But a little off tap to the rear was enough to spin him around. So really big sorry for that. Tried to avoid it, but in the end just couldn't. Big sorry. Yeah, well, since that happened, got my second race going at least, but that was mainly against Tim, so we could break free from the beginning, and like Tim said, we had a good battle in the end, so everything went pretty good. First race was pretty hard in the beginning. Chris just kept fighting me, and eventually, I tried to just stay on his rear, but he just went away, so as soon as you go away like 1/10 of a second, maybe just not enough to stay close in slipstream, so he was just that tiny bit tad faster and managed to gain like 1/10 or so per lap on me. Yeah, pretty much stuck in 4th then, so 4th and 2nd finish, definitely a good result, can't complain, but I have to give a shout out to my teammate Tim. I mean, I haven't had too much practice before this race, just a couple of laps yesterday and then like 3 months ago, so might have gotten a little bit more out of this, but it wouldn't really have changed anything from the result, neither in first nor in second race. So I mean, this is just insane. I mean, I have no words. So I'm trying my best, and all I can do is basically follow him at best. So he's really putting in like this extra percent which you need to get 100% done. And if he keeps doing that, I can't see anything else but him winning a couple more races this season. It's just incredible.
I don't know what else to ask you now. No, but I was going to, of course, ask you about the Chris Butcher incident, but you have kind of summed it up in your words. I mean, I wouldn't be so harsh on yourself. I mean, when me and Danny watched the replay, we viewed it as Chris made a slight mistake, ran a bit wide, and I mean, obviously you did give him a tap, but he didn't have much time to do too much about it. So we've been slightly less hard than you have on yourself. But we'll speak to Chris.
You're right, but on this level, I mean, I would expect the same from everybody else. I mean, we're racing at so close of a pace here, especially at this track, and I'd give every of the drivers in this grid credit to avoid a mistake like that, and it's just been my fault completely, and seeing Chris completely out of the race just adds up to me feeling sorry for that. So I could have done a little bit more to that. You said it, it was just a close call, but if I watched the replay, I think, all right, maybe could have just braked a tiny bit more or reacted earlier at first. So it always leaves you with a bitter taste.
Well, it is good to hear that a driver's willing to admit if he's made a mistake, which you don't always get in racing. So that's good to hear there. Marius, obviously a good result in race 2, and looking at the championship, you're 30 points behind Tim. I say only, it's getting larger. Tim's just been so dominant, but you're looking good for second at the moment, and Jesper's quite a fair way back in third with Chris in fourth. So well done today, great result. And I'm sure you'll be wanting to sleep now after the long broadcast we had earlier on.
But, yeah, we had a long day. Thank you.
Yes, well done for that. And now I believe Danny is going to speak to the man also involved in that incident, Chris Butcher.
Yeah, if we can get a word with Chris. So basically, Chris, I mean, obviously, let's talk about the elephant in the room. How did you view kind of that incident?
Well, I don't think I did make a mistake, actually. That was pretty much my line every single lap through that turn. But there's a few different lines that you can take through that chicane. You can be fast in and a little bit slower out. I opted for slow in and fast out. It worked a bit better for me, but it just caught him out a little bit. And it was the smallest of taps, but it was enough to ruin my race, unfortunately.
Now, about the good parts, what happened? Obviously, the podium in the first race. I mean, you seem to, I guess, kind of take it to another level of intensity, I want to say. I mean, you did a lot of practice for this event. You seem very sharp. I mean, are you now kind of having a head to fight for this championship?
Well, no, because I'm now, 70 points behind. So the best I can hope for is third, I think. I think I've definitely got the pace over Jesper, I think. But yeah, Tim's dominance is just ridiculous. He's in race 1. I managed to keep with Tveit and Tim for a bit, but in the last third of the race, Tim's pace was just so much quicker. So I don't think I can match him, but maybe get third.
Now, the final question I asked you about is just about THR Orange as a whole. Obviously, you've been here race in and race out, but your teammate Toby seems to be kind of flaking on the team. What's going on there? I mean, he wasn't here today when people expected him here. So, I mean, can you shed any light on that situation?
Well, the last couple of races he's been on a 3G connection. I know that. I'm not sure about here. He's just moved house, but yeah, I don't know why he's not here.
Okay, I actually just got a report that he posted late on the absence report about some type of wheel issue. But regardless, well done today, Chris. Hopefully you can stay positive and continue to fight in this championship moving forward.
Yeah, hopefully.
I'll hand it back over to you, John, here for our next driver.
Well, I would like to speak to Erik Tveit, because of course Erik had a very strong race 1, but an interesting race 2. You always seem to be able to have one race which goes well and one which goes not so well. So Erik, talk us through your event.
Race 1 was absolutely amazing. I just managed to keep my pace for pretty much the whole race and did what I could do. Tim was just level better than everyone else in the field, it seemed like, and I just didn't stand a chance. So I'm very happy about that second position. Race 2, probably should have avoided Butcher there, but yeah, it happens. At least I finished, and I'm happy with that. So.
I mean, obviously you had, looking at qualifying 1 and race 1, you were the only man who seemed to have the pace to match Tim, with the acceptance of possibly Marius in race 2. But I mean, does that give you a bit of confidence, knowing that you've still got the pace to fight with the likes of Tim, who's just been so dominant?
Definitely, because now I know that I need to pass and stay ahead of him and just hold him up. I can't let him be nice and just let him go and try to follow him, because then he just disappears.
Well, thank you for speaking to us, Eric, and well done today in race 1, and also obviously you had a unfortunate race 2. But I believe Dan is going to speak to our next interviewee.
Yeah, I actually want to point this toward Mr. Oscar Hardwick for Smile Power. I mean, Oscar, obviously you're coming up from Division 2, but you've been very good. What we've seen from you in Division 1 so far, and again today you show very consistent pace. Maybe not the quality pace was there, but your race pace seemed very good. 2 top 10. So talk us through the race today from your perspective.
Well, the real bonus from today was the lack of my tyres bursting and rolling over, really. That's what aided finishing further up. And yeah, with this kind of car and the amount of practice everyone's putting in, I mean, I sort of turned up 45 minutes before the qualifying session, and hoped for the best. And it did go fairly well. The qualifying was all right, but not great. And just people making mistakes in the race and me trying to profit from it. Although obviously race 1, there was quite a lot of racing done. I wasn't passing people making mistakes. I was passing them on, race drivability and whatnot. Them going a bit slower, even though I didn't have the front bumper in the first race.
Yeah, I mean, you seem to manage your car very good, even with damage. I mean, does that car? I mean, I'm sure our viewers saw a lot of cars today that were damaged that were still going quick. So, from a driver's perspective, how exactly was that to drive the car around, even without your front bumper and that sort of thing?
I can't speak for other people's damage because it'll have been different, but losing your front bumper didn't lose you any pace at all. I mean, yeah, it was a bit trickier on the brakes and on the turn-in, but these things at this track were very twitchy off the corner, so you had the lack of the front bumper meant getting off the corners was dead easy, so it sort of leveled itself out and worked towards at the end. Yeah, there was a bit of tyre overheating in the last 4 or 5 laps, but nothing major.
So with like I said, a 7th and a 6th on the board here for you today, I mean, what's the goals moving forward in the championship? I mean, are you trying to really make an impact, or is it just a round by round thing with you?
Very much round by round. I'm not intending to start getting podiums or winning races, because I've not got the spare time or necessarily as much motivation as I should have in terms of putting in the practice. Maybe if I did, then the 6th, 7th or top 5s even would be more consistent, but with tracks coming up that involve more than slowing down for 2 hairpins, I'm probably not going to be as far up.
Well, regardless, well done today to both you and Smile Power. So hopefully you guys will have more success moving forward. But now we have John Munro with our final interviewee and Eric Strana.
Yeah, I'd just like to have a quick word with Eric, because, of course, Eric, you look like you were one of the only guys that could challenge the top 6. You look like you were in that kind of pack with obviously the Spade guys plus Chris and Kevin Siggy. But then it seemed to go wrong for you in race 1, so tell us what happened there.
Yeah, there was a wall on the way where I wasn't expecting it to be. Well, expecting it
Never
was
helps.
there every lap. I just noobed out and hit a wall. Yeah, there's not much more to say about that. Try to drag it around the pits and just finish points.
And obviously you didn't seem to have the pace quite of your teammate today, but you still managed to get a decent result in race 2. So I mean, is this just you struggling with the car, or was it lack of time to practice for this one? Because obviously you were the quickest guy in the pre-qualification. So where's the pace gone for this round?
Just for reminding me all the time. It's not lack of practice. It's just I don't trust. I mean, after race 1, I was keeping up with Kevin reasonably well. I mean, you probably saw his engine was overheating and flying smoke all over, so that was a bit annoying. But I just, after crashing in race 1, just didn't trust myself, so I couldn't just go as hard as I wanted to, and just think I even have spun in race 2 as well, and had a nice little fight with Oscar, which again I want to thank you for. That was really nice. I got back at him at the end, but yeah, I don't know. It's just I just didn't trust myself. I mean, Norisring is hard enough, and then you get all these bumps everywhere, and it's like everything gets 10 or 20 times harder. It's tricky with these cars as well.
Well, thank you for speaking to us, Eric, and we wish you the best of luck for the rest of the season. But that is going to round off our interviews here today. So, Danny, who's the driver for the event of you?
Without question, at least I can't take anything away from Tim Hyman. We're going 6 from 6. It's absolutely absurd, like all the drivers were saying. But I am thoroughly impressed with Mr. Kevin Siggy from Positive Sim Racing, getting that tremendous result in the first race, then coming back and getting the podium against Jasper Tallberg. Absolutely, that's the way you want to get podiums, against Jasper Tallberg, the Iceman. Kevin Siggy goes out and does it for Positive Sim Racing. Those guys put a huge effort into sim racing, so I have to go Mr. Kevin Siggy as our driver today. Very disappointed not to have him in the post race booth like this to talk to. Hopefully, maybe he's listening to this, or somebody from Positive can kind of get the message to him to get on TeamSpeak next time, so we can have a nice chat with him. But definitely Mr. Siggy for me, John.
Yeah, well, I'm going to have to give it. Obviously, Kevin was very impressive, also Oscar, but I can't really argue against Tim Heinemann in any of these events. He's just absolutely spectacular at the moment, and we will see next time out whether he can continue that form. Just before we wrap up, remember to tune in for the next event in the Touring Pro Series. That is the Virtual Mini Challenge, live from Taruma on Tuesday. So that will be your next event in the Touring Pro Series. But from myself and Danny Asbury, thank you very much for tuning in. It's been a great event, and we'll see you in 2 weeks' time. We will see you on Tuesday, I should be saying, for the Virtual Mini Challenge. But from us and all the drivers, it's goodbye for now.